All right, what's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of 10 Horse Money YouTube channel on Monday Night Live. I'm glad everybody could hang out with us for the evening. We got a good guest in here. We got Matty Wong, who is just recovering from a pretty long drive, significant drive. So, like I said earlier, I appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to jump on here for a while.
No worries, man. Stoked to be here. Just it's not too bad of a drive. We call it. This would be like a medium drive, 7 hours up to Clayton, New York. So gonna go poke around. We got really nice weather, so be able to go and look around and get the feet a little bit more wet for this northern swing. Just did a week on St. Clair, and then I'm gonna spend a couple days on Champlain. So just trying to do due diligence as much as it can, where everyone else, like a lot of guys are off taking breaks, spending time with their family, and just gotta grind it out right now as much as I want to be chilling.
Well, this swing is kind of like the Florida swing too, right? Like it's either going to make or break your season. I always hated the fact that the Elite Series ends the season with 2 or 3 smallmouth tournaments, but the smallmouth guys probably hate that they started in Florida and spend first two tournaments down there, and you could either make or break your season on either end, right?
Totally. And this is, a couple of the places that we went, I think we just missed the timing on it. And, Sabine, like,
there's one of those classic places he was
talking
about.
Exactly. So we got a little bit of problem with his Wi-Fi service there.
Sorry, guys, I'm back.
No, you're back. You're so it's going to be a little bit glitchy, but just deal with it.
Like Seminole was, some were still on beds, and then Santee Cooper, we just missed it there, but they were still spawning there, and everyone else thought that they weren't. And like it's just like sometimes you could prepare and put a lot of time on a body of water, and then until you actually get on there and have to figure it out during 3 days, it can kind of, I did a lot of running around on a lot of those different lakes, but sometimes it just doesn't pan out. Like you can do your but they're fish at the end of the day. You can only try to predict as much as what you think that they're going to be doing, seasonal patterns wise, and a lot of times sometimes it's true, and sometimes can like come back and bite you and not have to fish the moment.
Yeah, it's probably easier or more consistent if you go to scout out a lake to do some pre-practice or just look at the area, and you're in like the summertime or you're in the wintertime.
Yeah.
But like a transition time of the year, like the spring or the fall, things are changing daily. So it's hard to fish something a week or two before and then come, or especially a month before, and come back and expect the same stuff to happen.
Well, in the Elite Series, they chase the spawn, right? Like you're chasing really good times of the year to be fishing, but also those really good times you could be a week early, a week late. You could be right on time and blow a fishery out, or you could be a week behind and it's just like crap.
Yeah, no, it's like throwing darts in the blind. You're like, it should be, like this is the season, but we just hope. And then it comes into permitting, and then scheduling with like the counties and whatnot. So there's a lot of that goes in to it. We didn't fish a single tournament in March except for the Classic. I didn't fish it this year, but this is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I think it'd be, like some of those smallmouth tournaments, the weights are so tight.
Absolutely.
You could be on a school of 3.5 pounders, but you got to leave them to go find 3 3/4 or 4 pounders or something. That's a difference.
It's just such a small, minute difference when you're talking about smallmouth.
Well, even on the Sabine River.
Yeah.
That right there is a prime example. That's the same kind of thing, but with largemouth.
But you're looking for one giant 3-pounder.
Yeah, but even like a difference in a 2-pounder and a 2.5, or a 1.5 pounds and a 2-pounder can be huge. You get 5 2-pounders versus
massive.
5 1.5-pounders.
Yeah, I think Sabine, whenever I would come across a stretch that had keepers, I would mark it because there'd be so many stretches you go through and you'd get 8 to 12 or 8 to 11 inches or 11 and 3/4. And you get to the point where you'll fish for 3-4 hours and then boom, you get bit. And it's a short, you flip in there again, boom, you catch a keeper. You're like, oh, keeper. All right. Maybe start shaking them off, start doing some figuring out, okay, I'm going to come back to the stretch. So that's kind of like what happened to that spot being the spot. I found it on day 2 of practice, and I had just caught like 1.25 pounds, which was a good one. You catch 1.25 pounds, it's a good fish. Because you're catching keepers, they're usually like right at 12.5 to 13 inches, which is like puts you right like just over 1 pound.
Yeah.
So that's why the cut line was like at 6.12.
Crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like after day 1. And Brandon Polinick and I shared the same water on day 1, and I beat him by 1 ounce. So
anytime you meet Brandon Polinick, that's pretty impressive. I don't care if it's 1 ounce or whatever.
I rub it in his face too. I'm just like, because he's so competitive. It's so great. And so like I beat him in ping pong, and so he was like giving me crap last year. He's like, get out of here, rookie. I'll be like, don't make me get over there, beat your butt in ping pong again. You get all pissed off. But no, Brandon and I are really good friends, and he's a really good dude, good mentor, and I've always been a fan of him. So it's kind of cool to be able to now call him a friend of mine. And during the Sabine, it was neat because on day 2, when I already got my limit, I was on my way out, and it's a bit of a haul to get there, and I just hear a boat buzzing, and I'm like, oh shoot, guarantee it's Brad. And he turns the corner and he sees me, he shuts down. He's like, you got 5? I didn't tell him I had a 3.5 pounder in the boat. And I'm like, yeah, I got 5. And I'm like, what do you got? He's like, I got 2. I'm like, get your butt in there, dude. And then he took it off, and he ended up squeaking out a limit that day, but it wasn't enough to keep him in the cut. But yeah, it was a very interesting fishery. I was able to draw a lot of similarities to a place that I grew up in on Oahu, this place called Lake Wilson, and then also the California Delta. And then also thought about the Ouachita River a little bit, where I won nationals, and I was able to kind of draw similarities, more so with the cypress trees on Ouachita. You'd get a lot of these like transition from on the main river where you'd have deeper cypress on bends, or your creek channel would come in a little bit closer to shore than everywhere else, and then there'd be a couple stumps and then nothing else, or like a couple laydowns and then a sand flat and then a couple laydowns. Like it was something super subtle, but then when you keyed in on it and then hit the timing right when it came to like current or tidal flow, that was awesome to like kind of get tuned in with those little subtleties. Thanks, Jay, appreciate it. But yeah, no, it was sorry. The more I figured it out, like fishing through the tournament, it started to unravel and kind of unfold. I got my buddies outside just being a bunch of
I love it.
I was wondering who you traveled with.
Yeah, no. So I'm up here with a couple of friends of mine from South Carolina, and then they're fun fishing, and then Jonathan Kelly and I. And these guys are just a bunch of clowns. Yeah. But no, it's
man, they can make themselves at home, and it's not going to bother us if they jump on or clown or whatever.
Not a bit.
This
is pretty relaxed.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty laid back. So whatever.
Nice. But yeah, no, that's what was I talking about? I think an interesting thing about the Sabine at that time of year, during practice, my better bites came off of the bank with a spinner bait. And you saw a lot of guys fishing tight cover with a spinner bait and like, pitching it and rolling it relatively tight. And I had two fish that were just around 2 pounds, which are like a 4 pounder anywhere else, and eat it right at the trolling motor. And so it was interesting to me because you areas where it would be lush with laydowns and a bunch of good, cut banks and good cover, deep cypress. But then you'd have these fish that were slightly on the outside lines that would, I think, because of the pressure of everyone like beating the bank, they'd pull out a little bit further and set up. And so that's kind of what keyed me into fish like a slightly deeper crankbait when I rolled through on that spot on day 2. And then, the rest is history. I like called up, I think 3 times within 10 minutes and completely turned the whole day around and got the second biggest bag of the tournament. So
you
kind of crazy.
Is that your first time on the Sabine? The Sabine? Okay, so talk a little bit about like preparing for that kind of environment. I mean, I know you said it reminded you of some places that you'd been before, like the Delta, but it's a huge. There's a lot of water to fish, and I'm sure there's a lot of dead water. So
a lot of dead water, yeah.
Research and then getting there. How did you attack that? I mean, that kind of seems overwhelming to me.
It's a lot of the places that the Elites takes us, and me being from the West Coast, it is pretty overwhelming on first sight. But through research, through whether it's footage, online articles, seasonal patterns and the way this like certain things set up, you can kind of break it down. For me, it was interesting. We were on Lay Lake in Alabama and hanging out at these cabins that we had rented, and a couple of other guys were staying there. And Hank Cherry told me, hey, my only piece of advice for the Sabine is don't spread yourself out too thin, because you can run 2 hours east, you can run 2 hours west, and you can run 2 hours north if you wanted to. So you can literally, it's the biggest fishery that we fish besides, even coming up to the Great Lakes, Lake Ontario, but it's different in the sense where you could still travel for a couple hours and then still be at the very beginning of like another giant fishery. So what I did was, okay, I got where are the areas that they're just known to be won out of, or at least where you can find the most consistent bite. And Orange is one of those areas. Upriver last year, Jason Christie wanted upriver, because then you have what is it, Toledo Bend that spills out into that top river over there. I'll take some Oreos.
Heck yeah. I almost went by and got some cookies today. I was just driving around. I was going to Menards to get some some OSB board to build. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So you off all week?
Yeah, I took the week off. I only had to take 3 days off. But I was like, I just had this overwhelming urge for cookies, like chocolate chip cookies, and I kind of sat on it.
Just comes on strong sometimes.
I know, man. It was weird. I'm like, where did that come from? Usually it's ice cream, man. I love ice cream. This was like cookies, and I just like, okay, I'm just gonna sit on it for a couple minutes and it'll pass, just like everything else.
Did it pass?
It passed, and I was okay.
You know what the worst is? I know we're way off topic here, but so my youngest son's birthday was last weekend.
Yeah.
My oldest son's birthday was this weekend, and you also had Father's Day on top of it. So there's birthday cake galore at my house right now.
Oh my gosh.
It is. And my youngest son, he's not a sweet eater at all. So he didn't eat. We got him a birthday cake all decorated out. Never touched a bit of it. Like,
he's like,
what kid doesn't eat cake, right? 4-year-old
pretty
rare. Doesn't eat cake.
It's good, but it's rare.
And then the other one's like, I'll take his cake. I don't care.
So he's
all about it. All about it.
Yeah. I like a good birthday cake every once in a while.
Oh yeah.
Just a a sheet cake, you know, like they get from.
See, Keegan's
Walmart or whatever.
my oldest son. His cake was homemade. My wife made it, and it was
Yeah.
pretty good. So
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy like I'll have like a slice of cake, but I have to have it with like black coffee or something just to offset the sweetness.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So we had cut strawberries, and I just put strawberries and cake together, and that was pretty good.
That's good too. Do you put sugar? or
That's
anything
a
on
great
the
combo.
strawberries?
A little bit, just to get the juices
Yeah.
flowing in them.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Strawberry. I used to have strawberry shortcake all the time. When I was
Oh, yeah.
little.
Oh yeah, that's
With a little bit of
top
ice cream.
5.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good, man.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I know I fixed it for my son last night. He's like, "Dad, this reminds me of something." I'm like, "Strawberry shortcake," but he's like, "That's it." That kid in the making,
Like, you
right
got
there.
it, boy.
Yeah,
So,
That's
my mommy-
awesome.
What about vanilla ice cream? Do you like?
It's got to be vanilla bean for me.
Is it vanilla bean?
Yeah, it's
See,
got to be.
I don't like vanilla bean.
Really?
No, I'm like a French vanilla. I like
French vanilla.
but I mean, I won't pass up vanilla bean if that's all I have. But I if I'm going to buy vanilla,
You're more
ice
like
cream,
a-
I like the home style or French vanilla.
I like
It's
the home
sweeter.
style. You like the chocolate frosty from Wendy's though.
I can do chocolate.
That's like
frosting.
your jam, isn't it?
What about like a Oreo McFlurry?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's tough. That's
Yeah.
hard to beat.
I had Oreo and Butterfinger concrete the other night. I don't know if you like Butterfinger, but if you put Oreo and Butterfinger together in a concrete, it's pretty good.
See, I like
really good.
I like a Reese's Pieces though too.
Well, you'd like
Ooh.
Oreo Butterfinger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I there's not many Oreo shakes or. We've been
Yeah.
going to Baskin Robbins, so we got a Baskin Robbins. That's
Okay.
the closest thing to my house. It's like 15 minutes away, which is
Okay.
crazy. But it's mine's like the cookies and cream or the Oreo shake every time.
Well, the problem I have with when you put candies inside of ice cream, like M&Ms or Reese's
They turn
Pieces,
rock solid. You just get
it's
all buzzed out.
dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
You can lose a tooth. They can turn into like
Yeah.
$1,000 dentist visit, like really, really
Yeah.
quick.
That's why I don't
Really
mess with it anymore. I just know. I know like Oreos. I'm good.
Yeah.
They
I
get
don't
a little
gotta
bit
worry about
soggy, a little
busting my
bit.
teeth up.
No.
Yeah.
No.
You put
it's-
gummy there, you can just ruin your week, dude. You never
Yeah.
know. Those
You're-
things,
You're right.
those
You may
things
not
turn
even be
into
able to
freaking
talk.
Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah.
Uh,
Your mouth might be like welded shut because because of the gummy bears.
oh
We
my
start-
gosh, all bad.
Yeah.
We started something here. I mean, it's like everybody's about the.
Everyone's
and
jumping
cream.
on the cake.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Brookie. I've never had a
Dang.
Brookie Blizzard.
Is that like
we have
a-
a Dairy Queen. Literally,
That's a-
it's literally 2 minutes from
You
my
can
house.
almost see it
I
from
can,
your
yeah, we
house.
can see it out the back door there.
So,
But they're kind of pricey, man. We got this local place called American Ice Cream.
that one's really good too.
Yeah, it's a
I'd
local.
Way
mom and
rather
pop
support them than a Dairy Queen.
Yeah. Yeah, like last night or the night before, I was like sitting around. I'm like, let's go on an ice cream run. I was talking to my daughters, and of course they're like, yeah. So we loaded up in the car, and they said, where do you want to go? And I said, I'm going to go to Sonic because Sonic has the Oreo Blast, which is really good.
Okay.
And Sonic's literally
Across the street
with
from-
an eye shot of American ice
Yeah.
cream. And about halfway there, I'm like, let's go to American Ice Cream. Let's support the local mom and pop shop. And it's just as good, and it's actually cheaper. It's a little bit,
Yeah.
it's a little cheaper.
Dairy
So-
Queen and those other ones, they ain't cheap.
No,
Like Cold Stone's like $40 for like 2 ice creams or something like that.
So
You're like, what?
I got
the-
you just like you made my night when you said Cold Stone though, because that's my. So when I was in college, Cold Stone was right there out my apartment. Like walk down the
Dangerous.
stairs, walk up the stairs. We
Yeah,
still
real
drove
dangerous.
around though, because we're lazy. But yeah, it was same thing. Like we were in college, and my roommate and I would be sitting there, and it's like 9 o'clock. You'd yell across the apartment, "Ice cream? Yep. All right, let's go."
Yeah.
All right.
Pile up.
yeah, I could never work.
Oh my
on those.
gosh.
I'd put on a lot of weight.
Oh, you imagine living like down the hill from
It's
one.
just as bad.
Just as bad.
That's all bad.
I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll share a funny ice cream story and like high priced ice cream. We were in I
Designer
think
ice
we're
cream.
well, it's actually frozen yogurt. Actually,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
That's bougie ice cream.
we were.
Yeah.
I can't remember if we were at Estes Park, Colorado, or if it was Branson, Missouri, and it was me, my father-in-law, mother-in-law, my wife, and 2 kids, and we're out driving around. It was kind of later in the evening, and everybody decided they want to go to go get some ice cream. And there was this little place called like Cherry's frozen yogurt or something.
Okay.
Okay. And it's kind of sitting down the hill in a little strip mall type of place. So we saw that and we're like, okay, let's go check that out. Never heard of it. Local place. It's got to be good, right? So we go down there. And my father-in-law, he's 83, really old school. I mean, they grew up on a farm and stuff, and they made their ice cream back then.
Made their own ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Jimmy John had to get on the back of the trailer and go and spin the wheel 50 times just to get 2 scoops. So.
Yeah, he's got like huge arms just because he's like the ice cream guy.
It's like that one scene, like Family Guy. It's like Quagmire with the one arm. It's like
Mark McGuire looking Sammy Sosa. That's funny. Yeah. So Tom, my father-in-law, he goes, I'll buy the ice cream, and I'm thinking he don't know what he's getting into. So we go down there. Yeah, it's one of those deals where you have the ice cream, and then you can put the toppings, and it goes by weight, right?
Yeah.
So each topping, you start adding like M&Ms. M&Ms are heavy.
It's like
you had whipped
they're
cream.
25 cents a pop.
Exactly. So we weigh all this stuff, and the clerk goes, "Okay, that'd be $41.37." And my father-in-law about dropped his pants. I was laughing. I was kind of like. Because I knew it was coming.
Right.
I knew it was coming. I was looking at those bowls and I'm like,
you shouldn't have got the gold flakes, man. That was on you. Oh my gosh.
Sometimes you just gotta let something happen to see, how it turns out.
But I mean, like Matty said though, Cold Stone, you take a couple ice creams at Cold Stone or Marble Slab, and you're looking at $40 out the door right there. I mean, it's $10 a pop.
Yeah,
it's good. I'll give you that, but it's like a special occasion one for us.
That's like an anniversary date night,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's not like you don't get to get the just like get a pint from the grocery store and be like, all right, I got this thing planned out.
Right.
We're not going out to Cold Stone.
You put it on your calendar like for a week, week down the road, you plan it out and everything. And save a little money,
Wow, we digress.
That was fun, man. We went down ice cream lane. That's pretty good. I like butter pecan too.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
How long were you in Hawaii? When did you leave Hawaii? Are you still call Hawaii home?
Hawaii is still home. It will always be home. I lived in California for almost 10 years. I moved out I bought a one-way ticket. I saved up 10 grand and I shipped my car from Honolulu in 2013, January 10th, and I moved to LA. And I stayed there until basically I qualified. And so if it wasn't for
what's it cost to ship a car from Hawaii?
Can't be cheap.
Sorry, I'm back. A small lake called Lake Wilson. And we have peacock bass there. And then we also have smallmouth bass in the streams. And then my dad's good buddy from college, it was like his best friend from college. I called him my Uncle Bob, and we no blood relation, but he was like a Calabash uncle to me. And he had a bass boat out of Sacramento in Roseville, and we would go out and visit him like every couple of years or so, and he would take me off of his bass boat. And every Sunday I'd watch Bill Dance and Roland Martin and like Shaw Grisby with my dad. And I'm like, what's a saddle, Dad? Like, because we don't have these certain setups in Hawaii, because everything's like red clay, you have some laydowns and whatnot. And so there's just certain techniques that weren't predominant or like not great ways to get bit. And so I would always watch these shows and always want to be like, oh, wow, that looks really cool to fish grass or, fish that style. And so it wasn't until I moved to California I make a long story short, my Uncle Bob ended up getting a brain tumor, and in 2015 he passed. And I was having a rough time in Los Angeles, and I was debating moving home. And I asked his wife what she was going to do with the boat, and she said that she just put it up on consignment at a dealership, and I would want you to have it. So I'm like, just tell me a number. And so she gave me a number. I wrote her a check, and I'm like, I have a bass boat. I didn't have a truck to pull it. I had a Hyundai Elantra or whatever it was called, and it was like my like I was living in the ghetto in Los Angeles, like hustling, like I think it was around the time my photo business started to take off. So I was still doing commercial acting, a little bit of voice stuff, playing music, not so much anymore. Because in LA it wouldn't pay like it was in Hawaii. Hawaii, I go and do like a wedding and make like $500, and in LA, I literally played at the Hard Rock Cafe on Hollywood, and had to split $75 between me and my partner. And so it's a grind, you know. And so I was, I was about ready to move back, and then this boat comes into my life. And at the time, my ex-girlfriend, her dad had this Tundra that he would use to, just take it to the racetrack or something like that. And so he never drove the truck, and he's like, "Hey, I'll get you a deal. You can use a truck whenever you want. Just take me fishing on like whenever I'm free to go." I'm like, "All right." And so
Yeah.
I would drive 5 hours from Los Angeles. I would stay with them up in San Jose, which is about 5.5 hours up. I would pick up my boat, drive.
We got to get to the rest of this story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And we're back.
Drive to, we're back. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So drive to like an hour to the Delta, fish all day, sun up to sundown, turn around, drive back, and repeat for 5 days in a row. Because when I was working in the photo world, I can, like hustle for 3 weeks, take a week off, hustle for 2 weeks, take a week off. And whenever I would take those weeks off, there's nothing else that I would do except for just go fish. And that's where I learned how to throw a chatterbait, because when I was, growing up in the 90s, chatterbaits weren't a thing. The Senko wasn't a thing. And so there's a lot of things that I didn't even know existed until I moved to California. And so, yeah, that's where I learned how to throw a frog. That's where I learned how to flip. I learned how to punch. I learned really subtle nuances with the spinnerbait, even though that was like one of my first bass lures I ever like grew up fishing. And then after a couple years up on the Delta, me and that girl broke up, and I was like, well, I got to get a truck now. So I ended up buying a 4Runner, and I moved the boat from NorCal down to SoCal. And that's where I got on Casitas, or Castaic, and Pyramid. So I learned a shallow water grass fishery with tide, which can be so applicable for so many different types of intercoastal fisheries, whether it's brackish water fishery. Like I used to go a rattle trap in the Delta. So you learn how to target a lot of things. Like striper would run certain times of the year. You learn how to dial in the striper bite, and then you really learn how the bass move and use hydrilla, and then certain types of like cattails, or we call them tulies or whatever. You learn how certain fish will use these certain highways, and they're just like humans in a way, right? We have we're going to Cold Stone, or we're going to Dairy Queen, and we have our certain streets on how we go to get there. And fish are like really similar in the same way. And so I think a lot of people get too crazy about like different theories and whatnot. Like, yeah, if you simplify it, man, all they want to do is to get point A, point B, go feed and do their thing. And then if they're not hungry, they're just going to go chill, like you chill on the couch, And so I think that's what the Delta provided a lot of knowledge for me in that sense. And then when I moved down south, or when I moved my boat down south, I should say, that opened my eyes to deep water. And when I mean deep, I mean like 30 to 60 feet, ultra clear water, and finesse techniques. So I learned how to necko rig, learned how to drop shot with like 4 or 5 pound tests. I learned how to, deep water jig. So in Hawaii, the deepest part of the lake is like 20 something, and then there's like offshore humps. And so a lot of stuff that I grew up doing was like hooks, micro jerk baits, poppers, and those kind of things. And it's not like you would think like, oh, peacock bass are like eating like giant topper waters and like howler monkeys and stuff like that. No, they're just like, they eat small stuff because like the forage is tiny. And so that's what I think it helped me. And so when California, I get, when I found out, they're like, hey, you should go fish Havasu. I think you'll like that. It's like the Delta and Clear Lake kind of put together. And I went out there, my first trip ever to Havasu. I was able to go up in the river, flip hydrilla and some toolies and catch like 3 and 4 pound smallmouth, and then go run down the lake and go catch them on a glide bait. And I'm like, dude, this place is amazing. And I fell in love with Havasu. And so all when I was kind of in this whole transition phase of like, all right, I fished my first season at Bass Nation as a co, and I had just put in years of practice on my boat, and I was fishing as a co, and I was trying to power fish from behind the guy. And so I learned valuable lessons there of like, okay, when you're fishing from behind the boat, the most important thing that you need are your finesse tactics, because yeah, you can get lucky, pick off like a chatterbait, like reaction bait fish here and there, but to really cash checks, at least in California, you need to have a spinning reel.
Absolutely, you did really well with the spinning rod in your hands.
Yeah,
that's something that I never learned.
So the time to throw like a power fishing deal is maybe if you're fishing a huge grass flat or something, but most of the time, yeah, it does pay to fish finesse stuff like a shaky head or a Ned rig or a drop shot or a wacky rig or something.
It's hard to do that though. When like Matty said, when you've taught yourself to fish out of the front of the boat, to change your whole mindset fishing out of the back of the boat, that's how you really truly learn how to finesse fish.
Yeah, and so that's what I was getting at, because I got my butt handed to me. I finished up like near the bottom my first year because I was like trying to power fish, and then I found out that like all the guys that were cashing checks were just throwing a freaking 4-inch Senko everywhere and like drop shotting, and I'm like, are you serious? Like I can do that. I just was too stubborn to adapt. And then I had a couple like situations where like a boat draw just completely killed me, and I'm like, man, if I'm gonna take that time off from work, travel, all this stuff, and I already have a boat, and then I jump in someone else's boat, and he's gonna do something completely random on a fishery. Like it was the Delta, actually. I went up for Bass Nation event, and it was my last event as a co through Bass Nation, and it was the nicest guy he's like 80, and like we get swamped off a takeoff, right? I'm in like shin deep of water, and we start running, and it's cold. It's like it's in like the spring in California, and we don't even get like 5 minutes from BMW, and his alarm starts going off, and he's just you hear that? And he's like, yeah, I wasn't doing that yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe we should like come off of it, And he's just like, oh no, we're gonna go to Sycamore. And like Sycamore was like an 8-mile run.
Gotta power through it, man. You gotta power through it.
I'm like, all right, dude. We get up there during the whole tide change on the high tide transition into the low. I was in the back troubleshooting because his engine went into Guardian mode. And had to troubleshoot with his son, who is a Merc mechanic, during 2 hours of prime window tide. And when I was after we got done troubleshooting, he just went out and like fan casted around, blind casted a Senko, and I was too stuck in my head trying to figure out ways to get bit and catching shorts that I was like, you know what? It took us 2.5 hours to idle back. I took a 2-hour nap on the back of the boat, and I'm like, this is it. I'm good. Next year I'm gonna fish it as I got, even though my boat's older than Moses, like I feel way more comfortable getting up and just doing it for my boat. And so that's when in 2020, that was the season that I fished as a boater. And my 1990 364 Command G Ranger with a 150 Yamaha, one working gas tank, and a Lowrance X92 black and white graph.
You don't have to have everything, folks.
I remember the black and white graphs. I had a 5-inch. I had several 5-inch graphs.
Absolutely, had a bunch of 5-inch monochrome black and white graphs.
When I upgraded to color, I remember getting my first 5-inch color graph.
And you thought
you're just like, oh my god!
You can see that drop shot fall.
Yeah, you can actually like. Oh, so dude, that's how I would like Damiki fish before, the whole like, craze came on, and then, drop shotting for spotted bass in some of the lakes like Pine Flat. You find spotted bass in like 65 feet of water, and you gotta, vert drop them. And I remember my first tournament. No one really knew my name, like as a you know, no one really knows you. And I'm like, I show up with the boat, and they're like, "Who's this guy?" I'm like, "I fished against you assholes all last year. Like, how do you guys?" It's just one of those things. You're like, all right, whatever. You got to prove yourself. It's like one of the things. It's like, you always got to prove yourself. And we were fishing a spotted bass lake, and there was a couple like good largemouth in it. And it's spring, so it's still cold. They're still eating the swim bait. I stick an 8-pound largemouth on day one.
Dang.
And the average bags of the tournament were 7.5 for 5 fish.
Oh wow.
So I came in with like 16 pounds or something day one, and like everyone was like, "What?" Like, that felt good. It felt really good. I ended up, I fell like one spot or something like that. I finished second or third in that event, and that was out of like a bunch of local dudes that were fishing that lake. And there's this one guy up there. They're the Wells family. They're all hammers. And there's Tim Senior and Tim Junior. And Tim Senior was good enough to fish on the elites, and Tim Junior is like a phenomenal fisherman. And he had always come in with a big kicker. Whenever you go and fish against him up there, like he would go and throw around a big giant like 250 or something. Hella bass. Sorry. He always calls me Marty because Siri auto corrects my name from Matty to Marty. So
yeah, it's like Chatterbox, Chatterbait.
Yeah, shout out to Rich with
What's
hella
up,
bass.
Rich? Good to see you on here, buddy.
The king of suck bussing.
Suck less. Catch big
suck
bass and
less.
suck less.
Yeah. Dang it, Rich! You got me sidetracked, guy.
So you just
first
caught
tournament?
an 8-pounder and you finished third in the tournament, and then you were
So these guys were
nice
they were this thing was super old. Everyone else running like newer Phoenixes or newer Rangers or whatever, and here I come like smoking up the morning blast off with a 150 2-stroke. And like
no mosquitoes
they got to the
though.
point. They would get to the point where we'd be like, "Matty, cut it off," and I'm like, "What?" And I'd kill it, and then it was
I can't see it. It's not warm yet. We can't cut it off yet.
I hear you, but I can't see
exactly. And I told him, I'm like, "How do you expect me to run to my first spot, dude? All you guys got 4 strokes." And so those are good times. I still have that boat, and you guys can actually go back and take a look at a lot of videos that I have out of that boat. And if you want to dive more into kind of the road, you can actually see me fishing as a doing a US Open, California Open, and some of the Bass Nation stuff as a and then transitioning into a boater during 2020. So then that first Pine Flat one, I think I got second, and then the next one was at Nacimiento, where I got I think 4th place, which is another spotted bass lake. That was a funny one because that one, everyone's like, yeah, they're going to be on shad. They're going to be out, on the main lake points or whatever. And it's another place that I never really went to. And I went to the back of this cut, in the very back of this creek, and there was like this nice big rock that would fall down in the water. And I started surfing, always being vigilant of your surroundings and like what's going on. I noticed that there was these tiny little bluegill that were, they would come up and they would feed and they go down. And it was in this really, really tannic, murky water. Everyone was out like with cleaner water towards the main. And I start, flipping around, and I noticed that if you had basically threw your jig up on dry land and popped it in, off the first pop, you would have like either a solid largemouth or a big spotted bass. And once you went through it a couple times with a spin, with a flipping it, you could interchange it with a chatterbait. And as long as you threw like a more condensed, compact chatterbait with a gold blade on it, they would just absolutely smoke it. And so people weren't relating like throwing a chatterbait for spotted bass, because you'd think like, well, spots, their mouth are small, da da da. And so I was like, perfect. This is a bite I had all to myself. I figured that out on the last day of practice. And when I was heading to get off the lake, I hear a cove. My motor won't turn over. And like, this is still like the 150 Yamaha, like old as crap, you know? And my buddy has to tow me in. Turns out my whole flywheel on my starting block completely busted off my block. And so Jared Littner's brother is a boat mechanic in Avalon in California. And so through the small community of bass fishermen, I was like, I need to fix my boat. Who can we call on, and who can like do this within, time? And before I know it, like I had a bunch of feelers out, and I had a buddy who was like, hey, be at this guy's shop tomorrow morning at 8:00. And I'm like, I'll be there. Drove an hour, waited there for him to open. He like jerry rigged some aluminum weld and got my starter back on top of my thing. And I was back at the lake by like 1:00 to finish up last day of practice. And he's like, he joked, he's like, hey man, it's 40% of whatever you win. And these are like small Bass Nation derbs, right? So it's like 30 guys or something like that. So like fourth place, you're making like $600, if that, like $400. And so I ended up coming in like, it was like a top 5. I think it was like in 4th or something. I went and bought him a case of beer, and I like put it on his desk. He's like, what the hell is this for? I'm like, here's that 40%, but and so it was cool. So that was the year COVID, right? When that kind of started mucking up everything. And so they had condensed our season down. We were supposed to have 5 qualifiers, and then they condensed it down to 3. Average from that, and I fished the Delta and ended up having good points out of the Delta, and qualified me for the team, California State team, and the regionals were going to be at Havasu. And so February was a time that I'd never been there before, and it was pretty trippy to get there, and the water temp was pretty cold, but it was again just right in my wheelhouse of thanks Dustin. Yeah, it's just like I love throwing a jerkbait, I love throwing a glide, and I was able to figure out a pretty cool bite there, and ended up leading day 1 with I think 17.5 pounds of smallmouth, where the average bag on Havasu was 8 pounds, and actually really hard to get a limit. And the wind blew day 2, they had to cancel it, and so day 3 we just ran 2 days. And since I didn't have any electronics, I wasn't able to see where my fish had relocated, like just with 2D. So that's awesome. So yeah, either way, I was able to put it together, I think 3 fish for 9 pounds, and managed to squeak out a third. I still blew out the California State team. So
3 for 9 is a good bag.
That is especially when they're 5 for 8, and it was tough to get a limit. That's saying something right there.
Good weights.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back.
I think.
Yeah, you're
good.
Sorry, guys.
It's all good.
I appreciate it.
You're bad.
But yeah, no, it was like a series of I don't know. It just escalated quickly. Let's just put it that way. It just went, and then I remember.
He'll come back. And we're back.
Maybe.
There we go.
There you go.
Like I was like being it felt good being able to like compete as I have a lot of experience on like Havasu. So it kind of really fueled me to, oh, okay, well, you're going in the right direction. As I told myself, I didn't want to just start entering tournaments and donating. That's why I spent those few years on the Delta, spending week in, week out, like not knowing what I was grinding for. But I'm like, I would love to start competing someday. And I remember I ran into this guy in the Delta. He's like, well, the day that you can put on a consistent 20 pounds on the Delta, you'll probably do pretty good on most tournaments. And I just like, all right. And so that was just my goal every single time I went to the Delta. Those little kind of goals help me.
Yeah. So you qualified, you won the state of California, and then
Ouachita.
That takes you to Ouachita, which is the Bass Nation Championship, right?
Yeah, that's the nationals, and that's like
nationals.
a co and a boater from every, and then also different nations as well. So you had South Korea, you had from Japan, and then South Africa. So it's kind of cool to fish with international guys too. And I'm actually I'm good friends with a lot of them still today.
Yeah,
and I think that's another thing that I've really been grateful for is, the guy that I drew as my co on day one of the nationals. I call him. I'm back.
You're back.
So I call them like my Alabama parents, because like they take me in, and I always stay with them when I'm going down through Alabama. And like my buddy that I met him fishing day 2 is a friend named Dustin who lives up in Wisconsin. And so, and then like Rich is another guy who I met through. And so like he's another good friend now. And so it's just so cool on how it all kind of came together. And you meet people that I feel like like Johnny Pebbles, who I'm staying with, there's people that you put in your life, and you're just, it's kind of cool.
So I was watching a couple of your videos the other night, and by the way, people that are watching, if you don't know, Matty's got a pretty good YouTube channel, so check it out after we're done with this stream. You can also follow him on social media. I left links to all of this stuff in the description box. But yeah, Mr. Pebbles, so that lightning, one of those videos, I can't remember what lake it was. I think it was Lay Lake. Were you in the middle of that lightning storm? That nasty lightning storm?
Oh yeah.
I was watching that, and it was kind of funny. You were like, I think it's gonna slide off to the distance. And then the very next scene, you're underneath this dock, and it's all hell's breaking loose. And you're like, yeah, I guess it didn't slide to the north end. But yeah, that's cool, man. It's like you said, it's cool meeting different people. I've fished a lot of the BFLs and stuff, and you go to some of the regionals and stuff, and you make lifelong friends. And it's just like you mentioned earlier, the fishing community is small. It's really small, and we're just up in it so deep that we don't realize how niche it is and how small it is. Because most of the time, I mean, you can walk into, just as an experiment, you could walk into your local gas station and there's 20 people in there, and ask any of those 20 people, do they tournament fish? And most of them are going to say, I would say none of them are going to say yes.
Most of them are going to look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Now, some of them may fish, but to most people, fishing is just, something you do, occasionally. You do it when it's warm. First of all, you don't get out there when it's raining, when it's really hot, or it's cold for sure.
Fair weather fisherman.
Yeah. That's fishing to most people.
Fair weather.
Yeah, fair weather. And then maybe a friend tournament fishes or something like that. But it's not as common as what we think. We're just a bunch of fish heads on here, and we're up in it, and we forget that we're kind of
a bunch of fish nerds.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and just like you talk about Paul and Nick, I mean, you guys, when it's when it's go time, it's go time. You're willing to do whatever it takes to win, right? Like it's there. But once the tournament's over, once 3 o'clock hits, you're all buddies again, right? Like you'll go do anything. You'll have Jared Littner's brother drive an hour, get there early, and fix your boat and get you back on the water the next day. Like
it's like the MMA fighters. You see them; they beat the crap out of each
Yeah.
other for 5 rounds, and then they hug each
But
other.
they're like, "Man, you're such a great fighter, man. I love you, man."
Then they're out. Then they're out at the bar, you know,
Yeah.
after in the evening and hanging out. And
that's
stuff.
like a bunch
That's like
of
hockey
fish
too. You get in a hockey fight or something like that, you're gonna be like most of the time you're friends with the guy after. Like, that was a good hit. Yeah, good uppercut. Yeah.
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 You gotta respect your opponents.
Yeah, totally.
So the Bass Nation Championship, you ended up winning that, and then how did that go after that? Like talk about that.
Well, hold on. Had you ever been that far east and fished in the States?
No, never. Well, I'd fished Louisiana for redfish with a buddy, but I'd never bass fished, in Louisiana. I don't even think I had gone to Texas. I did a road trip out to Texas the year before, and fished a couple spots and fished Table Rock for the first time.
Okay, so you drug your Ranger all the way across the country.
For the Nationals, yeah.
How was that trip? Like,
oh my gosh! I mean, and it's kind of cool that I filmed all of it, and I vlogged all of it. I actually see like I think Polinick calls his thing like the Tundra Suites. Like mine was the Forerunner Suites. And like I built out a platform so I could lay flat in the back of my Forerunner. And it's a single axle trailer, it's a 17-foot 10-inch boat. So I drove that thing from up north in Ventura, and I drove it all the way down to Ouachita, West Monroe, Louisiana. And I even stopped in Oklahoma and fish. I stopped in Caddo and fished Caddo right as I got into Louisiana, just to kind of get a feel for it. Like, oh, okay, dirty water, alligators, chartreuse spinnerbaits. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a journey, man. And it's, it's interesting because when you do the bass trail, like Bass Nation or any of the other ones, and you're fishing with a co or you get to fish with a buddy, I think it's something that you take for granted until that's gone. Because when you make it in that transition from being a club guy to doing it full time on the elites, is so much time now that I fish completely alone. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't take into account of, like, for me, fishing a solo journey, obviously, but with the camaraderie of having your best friends that fish, that are like other people like yourselves that are fish nerds, that we instantly come together on the same thread of like, we're obsessed with fishing, and like however we can like get better at doing it. But then when you get to the point where you're out on the water, and when you catch a big fish and you want to like turn around and enjoy it with a buddy, like that buddy's not there, and you're like, dang. Like,
yeah,
oh, that's a 7-pounder. All right. Like I've had like multiple 7-pounders this year where I catch it by myself and I'm like, well, that was sick, like get a photo, like, send it to Pebbles or something, rub it in his face, and he'll do the same. He'll do the same thing back to me. But I think that's a big shift there. But I mean, I kind of digress. Going from Ouachita, I realized that, okay, well now I have an apartment in Los Angeles or in Ventura. I have my job there, and it's, I had all these things, all these comforts. My girlfriend was there, everything was there, and I'm like, okay, what are the steps now that I need to do? Because it's not like you win it and then they're like, okay, here, we'll pay for your whole season. Like, go and fish the elites. It's like,
what's up, Corey? Good to see you on here.
Sorry. What's up, Corey? Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Yeah, you basically have to come up with like $100,000 to like fund your season.
Yeah.
So that was for about a month and a half. I didn't make a single cast. I sat at my desk and reached out to everyone that I had made connections through, whether it was like the surfing industry, whether it was through the photo industry, the ad and marketing agencies industries like that I've been intertwined with over these years. And I was just in full on campaign mode, trying to like, string together the strongest team that I felt of sponsorships that represented me the most. And that was a huge learning experience as well. I mean, I'm grateful that I have experience running a business from being in the photo world, but then now shifting it and doing it as you're the product that you're trying to sell, versus like before, like I could sell you like a photo that I've made and it's like, yeah, that's pretty sweet. You look at it, that's a sweet photo. Yeah, I'll pay that because this is what we need to sell through that. But like yourself is you have to find a way to market yourself to these companies that make you unique and individual. And it was an interesting time to like really deep dig inside, like, okay, long, that really make up, the fabric of who I am. And so it was a cool learning experience on different facets. And it all kind of came together literally down to like the last week. And just so humbled and stoked for like everyone that I'm able to.
Yes. So for those of you that don't know, it's been a steady climb, and Matty made it to the Bassmaster Elites, and he just had a top 10 finish. He finished third in the Sabine River last tournament. So
sorry, I just was lagged out for a bit.
Yeah. So you started from years ago, working your way up through Bass Nation as a co-angler, transitioned over to the boater side, just kept learning, kept practicing, kept your head down, kept grinding. And then you're in the elites, and there's the learning curve, which is something I wanted to talk about, that learning curve a little bit. But you finally, you're reaping some of the benefits of all this hard work in your last, tournament on a tough fishery, Sabine River, which is one of those tournaments where you can really fall deep. I mean, you can really fall fast. It's a make it break it tournament. It's like you said, the numbers are really, really tight, and you can catch 6 pounds or you can catch 10 pounds. 10 pounds, you're in the top, whatever, 20, 30, and then 6 pounds. It's just, it's
top
so
10.
tight.
with
yeah,
10
exactly.
Pounds,
Top 10. Yeah, it's crazy. It's just, so congratulations
I like
on
those
that,
tournaments
man.
though.
I like a grinder tournament too. I do too.
Yeah. I think when everyone's catching them, it's always.
I'd much rather fish the grinders than the ones that you bring in 25 and they're like, good job. See you next time.
Like Cayuga.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah. Right, Johnny?
Jeez.
You'd rather have a tournament where everyone's not catching them?
Judging by my performance at Sabine, heck no. Bring on the smallmouth, baby.
Johnny's ready for the smallmouth.
Ugh.
Man, at least you're going to be catching a lot of fish.
This next little stretch I'm really excited about, just because it's just going to be fun, as much as I enjoy grinder turn, and I think that's definitely my wheelhouse, where it's like you grind and grind and grind, and then you get rewarded by a bite. And then if you figure out the subtleties and you can key in on that and then execute, you can pull ahead with like a slightly bigger bag than everyone else. And especially when you break down an area and then a technique, and then how to mold and move with that is important. I think that's a big learning curve when it comes to being on the elites, is learning how to adjust in motion. Because so many times I think as the weekend angler, it's like, well, I caught them all frogging last week, when I pre-fished, or like, I was throwing a spinnerbait or throwing a chatterbait. That's how I got all my bites. But like, really learning how to read and adapt through different condition changes, even on the hour and down to the minute, is so crucial. And the biggest learning thing is really learning how to trust your gut, because I think a lot of people will like, oh, this is what I should be doing, and then they second guess themselves because like, no, but I was catching them on a Senko or drop shot, whatever, and so they they almost like try to hush or silent that second voice in their head that's telling them what the right deal is, but
This is some good stuff because
It is.
it's hard. We all have them little voices in
Well,
our
that
head.
you know, I saw a question up here earlier. I don't know if that's one you got decked up here. Yeah, doc talk. Sometimes that voice in your head's worse than doc talk, right?
If you don't follow it, and even if you,
Well, sometimes
it
the voice
doesn't always work.
If
It
you
doesn't
follow it and it
Yeah.
leads you astray, then you second guess the next one, right? Like
you second guess your gut.
and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're just in a vicious cycle of not trusting yourself,
you
not
get
trusting
spun out.
everything that you've learned over years and years and years of failing or doing something good. And then now that one moment comes down, you got an hour left to make a decision, and it's either a good decision or bad decision. Well, which ones do we remember as humans? We always remember bad decisions, bad luck, bad events, negative turns, instead of remembering that time that it worked out. That's where we got to change our focus and have that positivity where we go forward with better vibes than we had in the past. So
Amen.
it's hard to do, man. I think that
It
takes training, and it takes the really crappy times and learning how to roll that off your shoulders. Because I think as fishermen, and it's like just being a competitive person, like you lose a big one, it affects you. You lose another big one, it really affects you. And then you just, so if you don't even allow that to like change your trajectory, and you just like, okay, I lost a big one, but I know I'm in an area where there's a big one. Oh, I lost another one. Okay, now it's something small, whether it's changing a hook out or changing like, however you lost that fish. And sometimes you can't even help it because it's fishing and it just wasn't meant to be.
Well, you almost
So I
got
think
two
it's
stuff. I got two of them to bite that were 5-pounders. I can get a third one to bite.
You're throwing the right bait.
You're in the right
Yeah.
area. You're doing everything right. It's just
Yeah.
now you have a piece of string that has a U-shaped object on it, and you stuck it in a fish's mouth, and you hope to get it in. Like we expect that to be 100%, but it's not, right? I mean, that's why we love this game so much, because there's so much reward when there's
and then there's
so many
times where
failures.
you get a bite and you just like it catches you, like you're flipping a jig and you're pitching and you're kind of up in a high position and you get that bite and you do a little weenie hook set and you catch the fish and it's like a 6-pounder and it gets wrapped around a tree and you still get it in. And then there's other times where you get that bite and your rod's like down close to the water and you
Slap
it,
man.
Yeah.
20-pound test, the fish just comes flying at you and he comes off and you're like, what?
Yeah.
It's just fishing, man. It happens. And
Yeah, this is a good example of that. You guys can go back to, I think it's like the biggest bag. It's my Lake Fork tournament last year on the Elites, and I catch I think it's just shy of an 8-pounder. It could have been an 8-pounder on a mag fluke, and the thing, I hook it and it goes wraps up underneath the tree, and it's a mess. I ended up like hand lining the fish out and then landing it. It was pretty mental.
I had one
So
earlier this
if you
year
guys go
on a
back.
jerkbait, set the hook into a brush pile and feel the fish like surge. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting this fish out. Go over there and it's too deep for me to poke around at it and go on the other side. Still nothing. This is like 5 minutes. I've given up on it. Like I just want my jerkbait back at this point. So I throw the lure retriever down, hit it with the lure retriever like 3 or 4 times, finally get it to come off. It comes up and it's like a 3.5 and it just goes and surges again. And I'm back to fighting the fish out of the brush
did you have a lure
with the lure retriever on
Are you
it.
serious?
Yes, still trying to get in. Thank goodness. I mean, shameless plug here for the auto Trieve, because as I'm reeling the fish in, it's retrieving my lure retriever back in. I don't have a big old mess, but I get this like 3.5, and it's like, what are the odds that this happens? I mean,
That'll never happen.
All I
again.
wanted was my jerkbait back, and as soon as I hit it, I was like, "Oh, that feels funny," and I guess that little bit just knocked it off, and she just bolts out. It's like, "Oh God."
That's crazy.
But what are the odds that happens? I mean, for one, it never happens to me in a tournament, right? Like I'm way too jacked up when 3.5, 4 pounders on and they surge on a jerkbait. I mean, I'm gonna.
Well, you got like the ultimate punch weight on there. You know, you're worried about going up from a 3/4 ounce punch weight to 1 1/4 ounce.
Yeah.
You got like a 8 ounce punch weight on there, and you still got the fish in. That's crazy.
Yeah, dude, that's called luck. Sometimes you need lazy
And I didn't
luck
break
hanging
the
out with
bill
you.
on the jerkbait that I was using.
Was it a Megabass?
It was a Megabass.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's a win in itself.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of new faces on here, and I just wanted to make an announcement that we are going to be doing a giveaway here just shortly. And the way the giveaway works is we're going to make a reference to a Sasquatch. Matty's given us a number between 1 and 200. When you hear the word Sasquatch, guess a number between 1 and 200, and whoever guesses that number is going to get a $25 Baitworks gift card. And I want to rapid fire. We got several questions in here. I wanted to kind of touch on some of these questions before we get too far behind on them. Somebody back up that way had mentioned dock talk. They said, how often do you hear dock talk, and how does it affect you? Because you kind of mentioned it a while ago, you know, that everybody's kind of chirping. Last week we caught him on this bait, and my buddy caught him on this bait, and that kind of gets in your head.
Well, with the elites is you can't pre-fish, right? I mean, minus what we're doing now, you can pre-fish outside of but as soon as it goes off limits, you have a month where you can't fish it, and then you have 3 days before the tournament. So it's like if you pre-fish, you know that it's not going to be the same deal for actual official practice. But it all depends on you learn to trust very few people, and there's certain people that are for the most part will tell you straight, but then you learn okay, there's certain people that will lead you astray, or there's certain people that will
Pebbles shooting you straight.
Yeah, dude, me and Pebs we're the peeps. But yeah, and that's the thing. And I would say he's probably the main one where I know that I can be look, balsa bait, this size line I'm doing with it, and know that we can kind of share something and be like, hey, I got a couple on a buzz bait. I'm like, here, try this Bastrix bait, and so it's as much as your competitors, you can also be teammates in a way, because it's always good when you watch your buddies do well, and double works out when you both make a check. And if it kind of helps break some stuff down, it helps. But it's also too where sometimes, let's say if for an example, let's say if Johnny's really good at cranking, and I really like a different type of technique, and he's like, well, I'm smashing him doing this, and then you try to force doing something that you're not really confident doing. That's where it can kind of mess you up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always try to find ways to you get the tips and the clues from whoever you're talking to, and you can kind of piece together your own puzzle, and then you attack it in the way that you feel the most comfortable with your tools that that, okay, these are my confidence baits. I know I can go and put a hurt on them. And then you get to the point where you can be so fluid in your decision making where you don't have to be that guy that has oh, I'm confident with a square bill. I'm confident with but that's it. It's oh no, it's wind just changed. Time to pick up a spinner bait. Oh, just slick calm. All right.
And that's what separates the anglers.
Well, I was just thinking, if you got a buddy like Pebbles is really good, let's just say he's throwing a crankbait. I know you're really good at throwing a crankbait too, Matty. But say he's catching them, you guys are talking. He's like, dude, I'm getting a bite on every third laydown. You got a little bit of riprap on the bank, and they're sitting in 4 to 8 foot of water. You know what I'm saying? It's
he doesn't get that detailed with me.
Okay. But what I'm saying is Okay, say if your buddy's really good at one bait and you're maybe not as confident in
It's
that
okay
bait,
that look.
you got another bait you can throw.
He
that you
can't
got
hear what
confidence in.
we're saying, can he?
No, you can't. So it's great.
That's even better.
Yeah. So you just get the clue on basically what the fish are setting up on and the depths that they're using, and then you
Yeah.
can figure out the rest.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's not rocket science once you learn seasonal patterns and then techniques to catch them. It's no guys are out there. I mean, I have a couple tricks that I'll use, but a majority of the time it's like, okay, you need to go and blast down a grass flat. You're going to pick up a moving bait, and so you can get as much as he might smash them on a square bill. I can go and like wreck them on a chatterbait, or vice versa, or like there's like a spook bite going on, and then someone else is killing them on a fluke, and so it's just figuring out, all right, what are they relating to? What are the depth zones? What are they spitting up? Like those kind of things, and then it all just kind of as your tournament progresses, that picture becomes more and more clear, to the point where I'm running back and forth on a 200-yard stretch, knowing that there's a 13, 14-pound bag sitting there.
Yeah.
Well, in what you said there, like that dock talk, if you get too detailed with it, then you get locked in on that, and that's not your pattern. That's somebody else's deal. Yeah. Just give me the cliff notes of it. Like, give me the when I call a buddy, it's like I want water temperature. If I haven't been to the lake in a while, I want deep, shallow. Well, I got the rest of it. Like I can figure out the rest of it. I don't care what bait you're catching them on. Moving or slow. That's about all I want.
And sometimes it's like reassurance of maybe you found that same pattern in a different part of the lake and they were fishing somewhere else and they found it too. And you're like, okay, so there really is something that really is going on. Right. Assurance. Max
got a really good question.
Yeah,
here.
He says, so Matty, how do the mud holes in northeastern Ohio compare to western lakes?
Oh, hey, dude, I don't know. Everyone talks crap on Ohio fisheries, but to be honest, man, like they're actually pretty fun compared to like some other states. I mean, I don't think Ohio has like the worst bass fishing. There's plenty of good lakes. Yeah, maybe there's slow seasons, but California, one bite a day. So I'd say, Mosquito, Berlin. I like Lake Milton because it's super, super tough. And there's a bunch of like little smallmouth everywhere. And then Portage Lakes. And then I haven't even really ventured off into Erie yet. So, I mean, there's a bunch of cool little spots in Ohio, especially the northeastern part, because we all know northwestern Ohio really sucks. Yeah.
You have to hook up with Frank Scalish and go out there on the big water and get some smallmouth.
I'd love to, man. As soon as the season's done, I'd love to get back up there.
Stephanie wants to know, what are some examples that get you Angler of the Year points? So she's kind of asking, how does that bracket type work?
Yeah, it's all like, I mean, Johnny would be able to break it down a lot better. It's basically, what is it? First place, you get 300 points. Yeah.
No, I think 104.
Okay. So yeah, first place you get 104. Second place you get 103. Like all the way down. So if you're like coming 100, if you come in 104th, you only make 1 point. You have to catch a bass to get a point. So
what's your mindset going in most tournaments? Is it get a limit first, or does it depend on how your practice set up? I think that's kind of what she's getting at. Is it more of we're going out there trying to catch 5 and then we're going to put a big one in the boat? Are we going to
a B52? Sorry.
Are we going to catch a 25-pound sat?
Rewind. I completely cut off.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I think what she's getting at is when you approach a tournament, are you fishing for points or are you fishing for the win? Or does it depend on the event that you're going to?
It's completely depend. Like, so Sabine, my whole way, like the way I was looking at Sabine was just trying to get out of there, so surviving.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just in full survival mode, because it's like the place where it's so tough that you can like be Brandon Cobb at the top and then get like 97th place, you know? And so it's hard to go into a fishery and be like, obviously you go in with a positive mindset, like I want to win this, and you have to speak it, and you have to like believe in yourself first of all, and then as your practice goes on, then you try to like, all right, and then day one, you just got to take it a day at a time, because I think you put too much pressure on yourself if you're like, I'm fishing to win, and then when you have like crap day one, you're like, I suck, I'm gonna go home, and then you just like let yourself get all negative. Like, kill this mosquito, and it's that sucker's gonna die before I go to sleep.
In the room, fire up that 2-stroke.
Oh, dude. This thing's got like 10 pounds on him.
There's big mosquitoes up north too.
Well, they got to get big. They got to get fattened up for the winter.
I remember in Canada, man, those mosquitoes were the size of small bats. They're just huge and they're everywhere.
Yeah, the thing's giant. But
you have to get an extra quarter blood tomorrow if he gets a hold of you tonight.
No, easily. I'll have to get a what is it, infusion or whatever?
Yeah, from a mosquito.
Transfusion.
There's just this big mosquito laying on the couch, just swelled up with blood.
Yeah, just like all drunk, just like, is that it?
Best night ever.
Yeah, raging.
Just let him call his buddies and have a really bad night tomorrow.
Yeah, keep the windows shut. Andy says, has the use of all the electronics you have now affected you positively or negatively?
That's a great question. I think last year it affected me negatively at first, because I was learning how to implement my own style, which is being able to like, okay, read like traditional bass fishing, reading the bank, breaking down conditions, and then from there, okay, where should the fish be, to now being able to look over and be like, oh, there is a fish there, or like, oh, there's no fish there, where are they? And then you in the motion of like, okay, being able to make good decision making, because you're not making good decisions if you're just sucked in looking at it. You're chasing at that point. You're not evolving that puzzle, which is the picture is changing in front of you. And if you're not able to keep your head up and actually watch that picture change, how are you supposed to put that puzzle together when you're just locked in on like chasing the next fish that you see on the graph? So I've learned to like adapt those two things, where I was able to, on the Sabine, I would utilize it more as a depth finder and like also to find and locate structure. Yeah, a couple fish I had like saw that they were set up there, but then a lot of times I'll pan away, and that way I feel like now we're just conditioning fish, so when they feel the ping from a forward facing sonar, then they get hooked. You're just conditioning those fish more and more and more. So right. And you'll also notice a certain way a fish will react if you're close enough to hit them really clearly with a forward facing versus, you know, he gets, I don't know, there's a couple different theories and whatnot, but it's a whole
long episode of a YouTube show.
Yeah,
it's a live scope effect on largemouth bass.
Yeah, it's a real thing for sure. I think just certain fisheries are just not as affected by it because of just pressure and the amount of boats that.
Absolutely. Do you think about it, guys? Like 3 years ago, Matty didn't have anything but a black and white graph. Like
now you got all these fun toys, so yeah, it's definitely
there's lots more buttons to push on these.
Yeah, it's gonna send you sideways for a little while until you figure out how to work it into.
Yeah, I never had side scan, you know, and so all last year I was like learning how to side scan. Now I feel like a G, like I'm super confident with my side scan, super confident with my forward facing, you know. So, but like learning, I really had to learn it, and there was definitely a learning curve there. But then when I like jump on a boat, like jump on with Johnny and jump on with like someone else like down in Florida, or like, you know, jump on with people that like I jumped on one of the first times I fished with Ike and Ellie. I had never seen anyone side scan and process waypoints the way that he does. And so I was just like, what are you doing? And just watching him, and he's just going through, and I'm like, whoa, like we didn't even fish for like 45 minutes, and we're just scanning this whole area. And then after we're done, we like went back up and set up on the first waypoint. I'm like, okay. So I could learn to do workflow around it. And then once you kind of get your workflow around graphing, then you can implement the way that you attack it. And then for me, I'm very keen in on, and then you develop your schedule based around that. And then you can flex your schedule based on the bite and conditions, but a lot of times those feeding windows and those opportunities will be pretty consistent day to day.
Dustin just placed an order with Baitworks using my code. Thanks, Dustin. I always appreciate that.
Heck yeah.
Supporting the channel, supporting the guests and all that stuff. And then Jay said he wants to know what Dustin ordered so he can order the same thing. Here's another question from Dustin. He says, Matty, who are your current travel partners and what was it like rooming with Ike? You kind of touched on Ike.
Yeah. I would say it's
oh, get him.
Yes.
Did you get him?
Oh, bro.
That's a force water.
Dude,
I saw blood.
I had to hit him like 4 times.
There's blood splatter on the wall, I think.
He's
a
Canadian.
Yeah. It was worth it though, man.
It was
worth it.
Dude, the thing's dead now. Yeah, I would say JTK Fishing, aka Pebbles, Stetson Blaylock, aka Squid.
Squid.
The Squid. Okay. Yeah. Stetson.
Oh, we
were about to get the Stetson juice.
You got to rewind on this one when you get back.
There you go. He
you got to rewind on the Stetson juice.
Yeah, he finds his way to slide into a cut, and so thus being the Squid.
Gotcha.
Stetson S and then Squid S. So Stetson Blaylock the Squid.
Okay.
Because he's another guy. He will be like, he'll tell you like what he's catching him on or whatever, and then during the tournament he'll catch him on something completely different. And he's like, dude, I promise, man. I'm like, I know. He's that good where he knows how to make those adjustments. And when you have that much experience in a sport, you just know when to make that right adjustment for it to come together. But yeah, Ike and Ellie, last year he didn't have Becky and his family traveling with him. So that was really cool. He's a really, really good dude. And it was really neat to like get to know him. Completely different dude off camera than he is on camera, and just a really, really good supportive guy. Really smart and definitely gets in his head a lot, but is like a really good dude. Learned a lot from Mike.
Yeah, he seems very passionate about most everything. That's cool, bro. Being I don't know. So, a couple years ago, you're not around these people, and now you're getting to, travel with them, see them all the time, and their roommates, and
they were heroes.
That's
cool,
man.
3 years ago, they were your heroes, right? I mean,
now you're
serious.
Not that they're not still your heroes. Like, you look up to Polinick, right? But
but I talk crap to them all the time now, which is super fun.
Absolutely.
Because they're just people just like everybody else.
Yeah, one of my buddies from Ventura told me, "Hey, don't ever forget that they have to put their pants on in the morning the same way that you do."
Yeah, one leg at a time.
And I worked in the celebrity. What was that?
One leg at a time.
Yeah. Sorry, this internet, but like,
that's okay.
It's I never really got like when I worked in Hollywood and I worked like with a lot of celebrities and stuff. I think I would get a lot of Yeah, Ariana Grande, sick. Like Bieber, like cool. How's it going, man? Like I'm like you're a normal person like you and me, like that just does this for a living. But then when I met like guys like Brandon, when I met like Carl and a lot of guys I look up to, like I met Bill Dance, dude. I was like geeking out so hard. And I'm like, what's gotten into me? It's like I turned into like
Yeah,
just
little fanboy.
like a little 10-year-old fanboy, you know. Just like puts me back to like where I was like a little kid in Hawaii. So it's definitely humbling and neat now that I have kids that come up to me and like, hey, I'm a big fan, da, da, da. And so I try to take all the time that I can to spend it with everyone as much as I can, and especially kids, because I know how much like it has an impact on their life, because it did for my life. So
we got to remember your beginnings and stay humble, right? I mean,
always.
We talked about at the beginning of the show how small this family is of bass heads, right? And you can't ruin it. You can't ruin it for some kid's dream, because there's another Matty Wong out there that's fishing the Federation right now, that's fishing the Opens right now, that has a dream, and you can't be you don't want to be the dream crusher, right? Like, just because you had a bad day doesn't mean that he deserves to have a bad day to meet his hero.
No, yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's why I don't know. Like, there's certain guys on tour that like don't give like fans like the time, that they just kind of like, oh yeah, like here, all right, yeah, like sign their hat real quick, all right, cool, like all right, quick photo, all right, cool. Like I'm like, dude, like these people have been.
This sounds like an inside. Definitely.
Yeah,
inside.
like okay. It's like people like, oh, like they don't. Oh my gosh, freaking rich. And like it's just, you have, you know, people nerd out, and they deserve that time of day if they're coming up to meet you, and I always try to give everyone equal time.
Yeah, man, that's the way to be, for sure.
Because I was that fan.
I mean, I geeked out when Hellabass came up to me at the Classic, like picked me out of the crowd from.
Didn't he turn his nose up to Frank Scalish?
Yeah, he was talking. So he was talking to Frank Scalish, like one-on-one. Him and Frank are.
You've told the story a couple times. It's a good story.
Are having it out, and we're waiting to get in line. It's me and my dad were standing there, and I look up, and like he's making a beeline at me, and it's hard to miss Rich, right? And with the visor that's cut off or whatever, and I can't wear a visor. I can't rock that.
Whoa!
So I'm a little jealous, but
dang,
he's yeah. Thanks, appreciate it. If I could have it, it would be down to my back. I promise. It's not a fashion statement. But he makes a beeline right at me. I'm like, that's Rich. Like I nerded out a little bit that somebody recognized me from, and I've never met. That's the first time I've ever met Rich. So,
oh, cool.
But just to have that, I mean, we all nerd out. I mean, we talk about it on here when we have some guests on. It's like, you nervous? I'm nervous. You nervous? Yeah, I'm nervous. You just never know what you're gonna get.
It's cool. Sure. It's so cool to just hang out and get to know people, even though as much as you can know somebody in an hour and a half or whatever. It's it's pretty cool to meet people, and everybody's. You start talking about something that you have in common with somebody else, and it usually goes pretty well.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, so you spend a lot of time in California, and California kind of got the whole, there was back in the 50s, there was this film, the Gimlin film that had Patty on there, which was the original Bigfoot. So, you know, Sasquatch kind of gained some traction in California. Have you been up in the mountains looking around, found any tracks or hair, or you know anybody that's had any kind of?
You got I know you got a big old cast in your living room, right? Of
one of those cash prints.
I actually got. I have 2 juvenile sassies in the deep freezer back in Cali.
Oh wow,
nice.
Yeah. I actually personally harvested with a Bowie knife, 2.5 inch but we
Man, that's close quarters.
Well, you're just
yeah
trying to keep
I
it
had to
fair.
jump out of a rare Californian mango tree and ganked the first one, and then the second one I actually caught in a mouse trap. So it's pretty cool.
Was
Really?
it by the pinky toe?
No, index, but
Ah,
no, that's the next
That's the
one.
other. That's the other weak link, right?
It just held them
The
there
nose
until
picker. You
you
got to
could.
get the nose picker.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just like it's just like when they put like a monkey and a banana through a box. It was like that, like little tip of the finger. It's done. So
It works every time. I don't know why more people don't do that. It's such an obvious way to catch a Sasquatch.
Oh, I think that's the best one we've had yet. Like
That's good.
that was really good. I like it.
You're just trying to keep it fair by using the knife instead of a gun.
Yeah.
yeah,
You got a
no,
winner?
because
Yeah, we got a winner like third guess.
really.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, he won last week.
Did he?
Yeah. You can't win 2 weeks in a row.
dang,
You can't win 2 weeks in a row.
dang, dude, savage.
Savage. All right. Okay. So keep guessing. I'm gonna write down another number. Just
Well, let's see if there's another one.
okay. Yeah, let's see if there's another one. But somebody's gonna guess that now.
Well, it's 9:34. So let's see real quick. Yeah,
I should have made that
right there,
disclaimer.
right there. There it
Okay,
is.
Luke Jones.
I'll give it to
Perfect.
him.
Yeah, Luke Jones. Congratulations. That was legit. I need to make that disclaimer that if you won last week, you can't win twice in a row. So Daniel's cool, man. He's the moderator on here, so he understands.
He's the one that keeps all the riffraff out.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. All the bots and the trolls and all that stuff. He kicks them
sweet.
to the curb, man. Luke.
All the fembots that come out.
Yeah, exactly. Get a hold of me on 10 Horse Monty, Gabe Montgomery or Gabe Montgomery Fishing on Facebook, or 10 Horse Monty 6 on Instagram, and just send me an email, and I will talk to Brian tomorrow from Baitworks, and he will get that gift card over to you. So congratulations, Luke. That's cool.
Nice, dude. Good job, Luke.
Well, so everybody says that you can pass on me because it was the year you won Natty, but that wasn't why he picked that number.
It's because it's your birthday.
That's my birthday. Like,
Yeah, because I was like, it's JV's birthday, so
that's right. You said he's your hockey jersey, right?
Yeah, that was that was a hockey number I wore, and I played like from Pee Wees all the way to I played beer league for a few years too.
Well, let's ask. I'm going to ask 2 more questions and we'll wrap this up, man, because you had a long drive tonight. It's getting late and stuff.
Yeah, Johnny's gonna kill me. He's already like sleeping right here.
He's out.
You got to cover
He
up.
just hears
Johnny.
you talking. You're like the crazy person.
He's
that's
got to
talking
cover up. Those
himself.
mosquitoes are going to get them.
I already harvested 4 of them already. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
So the 2 questions I had. One was, how did the custom Matty Wong colors in the Bastrix swim baits come about? And also was some sneaky baits from Megabass that we need to know about.
Okay. Okay, well, the custom Bastrix colors, those are actually what Brian and myself, they're initially what I thought would be a unique color, and then my interpretation of what I wanted those to be. And so a lot of back and forth, a lot of prototyping different colors, scale patterns, and then they have a pretty interesting process of doing everything. So that's how the Wong gill came about. I wanted something that had a chartreuse dip tail for a gill bait in a boot tail, and then also something that had like a brighter orange belly to represent like a spawn or an egg sac, for brim or bluegill, however. And then for the shad, it was a brand new iridescent type of flake that he was able to get in, and mixing that with a certain type of opaque base layer, we were able to get a certain shimmy where you can go from pink and then hit it with a different UV light. And so just on like a subtle movement in a rock, you get a pretty wide variety of color tone, getting just illuminated off the bait, and replicates like a perfect sheen to like a thread fin or something like that, because you'll have like multiple different
That's a pretty complex color scheme, man. It sounds like it does a little bit of everything.
especially for a soft body swim bait.
Yeah, no
right?
kidding.
Yeah, so that's how the Megabass or the Bastrix ones come about. So that's not like he makes something and then I'm like, yeah, I want that. I'm like, no, this is what I want, and this is what we're gonna work together, and then we come to the place where it's like, all right, this is sweet.
That's cool.
Okay, Megabass. There's the Karashi.
Okay.
It's a tiny little topwater bait, and it's super sleeper. Not a lot of people know about it, and it's a finesse topwater bait for when they start, especially as like the fall starts coming around, and then they tune in into that micro stuff again.
Yeah.
You fish
Maybe
it on like
mayfly hatch, maybe.
Yeah, mayfly hatch. You know, that and the cicada, the little ciglet for the mayfly hatch is the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good one for mayflies or cicadas. I just change out the bottom hook. I clip it off. I put a split ring on it, and then I put an actual treble hook on it. Versus it comes with a dual hook on it. So that's a kind of a cool. I mean, it's more so like on the lines of like bait finesse. I slide 185 that's going to be coming out pretty soon. Yeah, you can't go wrong with spark shads, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty good bait.
Those things are awesome. They get bit everywhere. Like from down in Florida, I'll wake the 5-inch spark shad, and just fish it with a beast hook and just wake it right under the surface over big grass flats, and that worked actually really well on Seminole. Caught a couple really good fish doing that too. And a lot of times because of the shape of that bait, you don't really have to add too much weight to it, and it has a perfect body balance and roll. Another little sleeper deal is something that I do with both Bastrix and Megabass. I'll use the Bastrix. I'll use the Megabass body balance head on a 5 and 6 inch boot tail. And so if you're like ledge fishing or anything like that, you get a big wide, like kind of a wobble because the keel on the Megabass body balance head. I'll slightly open up the hook because the hook angle is kind of down. Just slightly open it up, and you can slow wind that thing. You know, after like a long bomb cast, you could be down like 20, 25, sometimes even 30 if you're able to really like pinpoint it. There's not a lot of wind, and just like slow roll it, bump it. Or you can throw it up on bluff walls and fish it faster, like quick little directional changes. That's a fun little trick that I like to do.
There's some new mag draft colors too that came out, right?
Bunch of new mag draft colors. There's like 6 of them.
Okay.
So
that's a really good bait as well.
I've just been playing with it the last year or so, and the drawing power that has on forward facing is I don't know what they put in it, but it brings fish from a long way away.
It's just the bigger profile, man. You'll be surprised if you start throwing around the 8-inch more too. You'll be surprised on like the size of the fish that will choke an 8-inch bait. It's not that
I have a lack of throwing big baits, because I'm a big swim bait junkie, like big soft swim baits. But it's I don't know. There's something about that one that it seems to draw fish from a long way away.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it could be murky water too, and they'll rip up to it.
When they hit it like a freaking.
They feel that stuff, man. We don't give Bass enough credit for that. You know, we think that
100%
we got to have something that's thumping or something that's rattling, or
man. And that one's just so subtle. It's just quivering.
Yeah,
just so natural going through the water.
It's the perfect. What is it? The word that I'm looking for? Syncrasy of the head shake and the tail kick.
Yeah.
There's
You'll find that perfect cadence where you can get that head and that tail to kick, and that's when that's where it's like perfectly dialed in. All right, I got a little trick for you guys. Just because It's almost near Christmas, so I feel like holiday season, you got to be giving.
Almost near Christmas.
Christmas in July or June.
Christmas in June, bro. I'll just
Yeah.
give you I'll give you a little tidbit because it
All
was Father's Day.
He's gonna glitch.
So
it's
it's
gonna
gonna
glitch.
glitch
It's
as
gonna
soon as
lock
this
up, and
happens, yes.
he's never gonna come back.
Yeah, it'd be like, so like the one thing that I always fish is.
I love it. I love it.
Nah, it's something so simple as like the spike it.
Yep.
So spike it makes multiple different colors, and then boiling mag drafts. So when you combine the two, you can change the kick on a mag draft. You can add weight to them. Obviously, with nail rates, people know that. But then certain hooks too will change the way that they'll keel and set up. And then spike it when you can get something that, like, they don't really have a bluegill per se looking, but it doesn't mean you can't make one. With it's really hard to find. When you can find it, always grab a bottle, but it's the green pumpkin spike it. So everyone gets the chartreuse, right? It's like the chartreuse dip, everyone's got a chartreuse dip. Maybe some people like the orange dip one, maybe pink pen. Green pumpkin one is the deal. It's a sleeper, everyone sleeps on it. And I'll create a whole series of different colors mixing, whether it's chartreuse or it's green pumpkin or if it's the orange one. And you can use everything from like a Q-tip to paint on certain accents here and there.
See, there you go. We're getting down to the juice.
I'll leave.
Yeah, and he said there's one color that I never talk about, and then it just went.
Yeah.
No, you're right, man. That's I used to take the the blue spike it pin and just barely touch the tails on my flukes, because almost every bait fish has like that little bitty dark tail, like at the very, very end of it, especially like a baby bass, like the young of the year bass are like 4 to 6 inches long. Yeah, you can just barely touch it, and something a little bit different than everybody else.
Dion talked about that with like when he uses any kind of dip and dye or spike it or whatever, when he's messing with the crawls on his jig trailer, like he won't just won't like paint the tips. He'll put dots on it or a line or something just a little bit different. That little extra 2 seconds that it takes to put dots on the pinchers versus just dipping the tails could get you 1 extra bite, 2 extra bites.
Or mentally, that's helping you become more confident at what you're doing. And I think if you can develop those little things that you feel personalized with, like, and it's something material that you can grab, and that will give you in turn that more confidence going into it. I think that sometimes is more so the important thing than maybe the subtle differences of an orange craw. But I mean, I've definitely seen it on those occasions where adding a little bit of orange and then taking the green pumpkin or a black Sharpie and just like dotting on to like really replicate what's going on with like a molting crawfish, or some subtleties like that. But
I didn't even know they made green pumpkin.
They had green pumpkin spike it. Yeah, I think I've seen it, but I
appreciate that one. I appreciate that one.
There'll be a shortage of it.
Just a little,
nugget.
But yeah, guys, I'd love to. We should do this again. I feel like this time is. It's coming up on 11.
Yeah, completely, totally understand, bro.
We're just gonna shut it down.
Yeah, we'll have you back on sometime down the road, maybe in the wintertime when things have slowed down. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your evening. And good luck with the rest of the season. We'll be following you as well as everybody on here.
Merry Christmas, by the way. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas in June. Yeah.
Merry Christmas in June, boys.
Yeah, and then tell Pebbles we said hi, and I hope he gets some good rest.
I will. Maybe we'll get one where it's both of us on. I appreciate everyone that hung out, and appreciate you guys for having me on. And yeah, I hopefully. Oh, I got day 1 and day 2 of Sabine coming following Mondays. So I'm excited to share that with everyone.
Day 1 and day
kinda
2 is
watch
Sabine
me through that.
dropping when? When's that dropping?
Well, so next week is going to be day 1 on Monday, and then the following week will be day 2. I'm making it a 4-part series because I have that break right now.
Okay.
So it's finding ways to kind of stretch it out, but don't want to miss out.
Yeah, make sure everybody goes and checks that out.
I think it's
go follow Matty and give him a like.
Greatly appreciate all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then Hawaii merch too, or the Lateral Vision merch, if you guys want to. Really, I mean that directly supports me as much as like a subscribe on YouTube.
Okay.
Puts gas in my truck.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the description box.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, it's a lateralvisionbrand.com, and then anything in the Matty Wong capsule, all the profits actually going to supporting me. So
okay,
fantastic.
Lateralvision.com. Okay, I wrote it down. I'll try to put that in
lateral. Excuse me, Lateral Vision Brand.
Lateral Vision Brand. Okay.
Yeah.
Brand. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
cool.
Thanks for hanging out, guys. And
thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah,
we'll do it again.
Okay. Sounds good, man. Have a great evening and good luck the rest of the year, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. All right, fellas. Have a good night.
Right. Adios. All right, man. That's a wrap. That was fun. A little glitchy. Do apologize for that, but we knew it was going to be like that coming in. He drove 7 hours, and they
don't have great service in New York. Let's be honest.
He's kind of up in the middle of nowhere. So we were just happy that he was able to come on here, and I definitely want to get him back on later because I had a lot of other stuff that I wanted to dive into.
I got some Megabass questions for him.
I get some really good, exactly. Some of the bass trick stuff. He's had a lot of experience with big glide baits.
Well, he comes from that side, right? Like,
right.
Big glide baits, big swim baits.
Well,
giant
California,
bass. Yeah, looking for. Well, he mentioned it earlier before it glitched out at one point. Looking for 1 bite, 2 bites, 3 bites that make your day, versus where we're trying to catch 5 for 20, they're trying to catch 2 for 20.
Yeah, go over there and have a look at this. The lateralvisionbrand.com.
Yeah, I'm about to check that out.
That's a great way to support somebody, and another way to support any of the guests. And I used to mention this a while back, and I keep forgetting to mention this, is for your regulars on here, anybody that's watching this, go back and give them a follow on Facebook or Instagram, or go check out their YouTube channel and subscribe to it, and send them a text, send them a comment and say, hey, really enjoyed watching you on 10 Horse Money Fishing podcast or live stream. That is good. It lets them know that their time was of value and that you guys got some value out of the content that was created here tonight and that they were a part of. And it also helps us get different guests down the road. Word travels fast and stuff, and they have a really good experience. And if they get people coming and saying, hey, enjoyed hanging out, is like your story and good luck, that's good positive feedback. Everybody likes to hear that, and it makes the world go around. So
a lot of our guests came from that. So
yeah, it sure has. It's a small community, and people talk, and you get connections like that, and just it helps everybody, because these people on here, they talk about a lot of stuff. It's hard to, it's a different format, the long stream, live stream format, the long, what's the long play, whatever. It's stretched out. It's not like just a little 20-minute soundbite or a 15-minute soundbite. So these people get on here and they can expand on stuff and get relaxed. And there's a lot of really good stuff that comes out of these live streams. I mean, not just on our channel, but anybody else out there. Megabass is on here. He's got a lot of great guests. He has a really good show. But we've had some really good guests that have shared a lot of really good stuff, man. I've learned stupid amount of stuff. I mean, I almost always go back and watch the live streams the next day, not to listen to me and JB rant, but to pick up all the stuff that I missed out on that the guests have shared with us. Cause there's a lot of good juicy nuggets that are dropped on just about every live stream.
That's the one thing that what you guys don't see is what a lot of times when we go backstage after we shut off and we're talking to the guests afterwards. They're
Mhm.
like, man, we looked at the clock and I couldn't believe that it was an hour and a half in, 2 hours in, 2.5 hours in, and we're still just cutting up and chatting. That's the platform that we've kind of developed here. It's just laid back. It's just 3 guys talking about fishing.
Yeah,
So-
Stephanie Pebbles is one of Matty's travel partners. He's on several of his videos. I went last night. I watched like 3 or 4 of Matty's videos just to catch up on things.
Mhm.
And you'll see Pebbles if you go back and watch some of his recent videos. So that's all we got for you tonight. Really appreciate everybody hanging out. Next week, I'm not sure. So we got a couple things that I'm working on right now. One, I'm going to try to have somebody from Baitworks come on, somebody who is in the product line. Basically, I want to have a show where we get somebody from Baitworks talking about hot selling baits, things that are coming down the pipe.
well, they're developing baits for folks too.
They're actually developing baits. Luke Duncan's jig was a Baitworks thing. There's several of them out there, but I want to have somebody from them come on here. Dion's, yeah, the Higdon Hammer jig. Somebody like that come on here and talk about all that kind of stuff, the nitty gritty stuff. That'd be fun. Mike Russell from Bag 5 Baits, who is he's been with Striking for a while, but he just officially became the product developer for Striking. He also paints a lot of the color palettes for Striking. He's wanting to get on here sometime. We've been wanting to have him on, and he's actually willing to drive up from Kentucky Lake and come sit in with us sometime. So that'll be a good stream. He's a really good dude. He's gonna give away as much as he can give away about some of the new stuff that Striking is developing. We've got iCast coming up. There's going to be some stuff that's going to be dropped with iCast.
That's in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's coming up early. I think it's July 11th or something.
Okay.
So he's wanting to come up, or if he cannot make the trip, we want to get him on here. I want to have Gail Julian on again, the owner of Jewel Jigs. I've been talking to him. He's the Virtus Jewel Rod. You see me fishing lately. He's went on board with Virtus to help with the distribution of their rod lineup. So I'd like to get him back on here to talk about some of the things that they're doing. And I'd also like to get Isaac from Cumberland Pro Lures on here. He's always a great guest. He's been kind of temporarily displaced because of that tornado that they had down there, down in Georgia. It's been 4 or 5 months ago, but he's getting his feet under him, and things are starting to turn around to where he's, going to be in a more stable environment to where he can actually sit down and do a stream. So we got some guests lined up, and we're continuing to get more guests. So I guess you guys are caught up.
I don't know. I gotta,
I'm trying to get 2 videos out this week. I got the content. I just haven't been able to
So
edit.
speaking of videos, and I know videos and editing is a lot for you, but
Right.
I got an idea.
What?
I'm done with ball.
You know,
Last weekend was this weekend.
Really?
So
Wow, that's kind of
you know what that means, right?
good and bad.
Yeah. It's bittersweet, right? Like,
Well, we need to go fishing. Is that what you're saying?
I was listening to an episode of LBL the other day. Show Up, Shut Up.
Uh-huh.
They've asked for it. Should we give it to them? Like, me and you, Random Lake.
What, we one-on-one tournament or
Yeah.
what? Oh,
Mano a mano.
sure. I've lost enough times. It ain't gonna hurt me.
And I'm with you. So
Yeah, Mike.
film it all. Little
Let's
4
do
hour
it, man.
dirt.
That'd be fun, dude. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Bag 5 Baits, Mike he's one of the best painters in the country.
Absolutely.
His crawfish patterns are second to none.
His
He's
shad patterns?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my god.
Yeah, he's just a good
that's
painter.
sick.
Whatever it is. I mean, we had Frank Scalish on here not too long ago. Frank's a really good painter, and Mike's a really good painter as well. So
They both paint for baits that you guys have in your tackle box.
yeah, exactly.
The stuff that you have in y'all's tackle box, Frank and Mike
Mike
have
painted
had
it.
a hand in them.
Yeah, exactly.
So
You go and buy. Mike can tell you more about it, but you go into Walmart or Bass Pro Shops, or you go into Baitworks or wherever, you buy you a Strike King KVD 1.5. There's a pretty good chance that Mike was behind that color palette and developed that color.
Yep.
Um,
Luke, I got a I got a regional there this fall, so
that would be yeah. I ain't scared to be fair. As long as the wind's not blowing.
It's just a long haul for us.
It is. It's an
So,
hour. It's what is it?
2 hours. Yeah,
it's 2 hours.
Solid 2 hours.
Solid 2 hours.
No, I was listening. We were listening to Matty a while ago, and he's making a
Dutchman.
5 hour.
That's more of a flavor right there. Dutchman. That's a smaller lake. Remember we used to fish at the 99 Club? I've never fished it, but there was a time when they fished it. I think it's got lily pads. It's an hour and a half.
Okay.
Over in Illinois somewhere. Okay. Yeah, I've never been there, but I know we used to
keep me off the strip pitch because you got the That's not even fair.
Yeah, that would be fair because there's some key spots that
I'm gonna just post up next to you. Like we're just gonna Kentucky Lake it.
All out idle you. I'll be running 7.3.
Oh man,
7.1.
I'll have to get like an extended handle so it levels out better, so I'm not throwing away.
Yeah, Ren's tough, man. It's one of those lakes where it's got
haves and the have-nots.
In fact, Trevor McKinney just finished
second.
Really good. No, Trey
finished second, which he's good on Ren too.
Yeah, exactly. He's a Carbondale boy, but
they both cousins finished in top 10, right?
I think Trevor was top 20. I want to say he was.
I thought he made the second day or the third day.
No,
I'm gonna look it up.
I think he finished 15th or 16th or 17th or something. But those guys are hammers on
absolutely
on Ren Lake. I've only fished Ren Lake.
Trevor was in 5th.
Was he?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right. He did. Yeah, my bad. So yeah, the McKinneys, man,
bringing it back to.
And Trace in 3rd in the
AOI
points. Yeah.
It's so hard to look up that on the Bassmaster website. You got to really dig for that one.
Trey could potentially be the youngest Bassmaster Elite ever. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
The article that I read, it was one of the youngest. I don't know if it will be the youngest.
I can't remember who is the youngest right now. I know he was 19 years old, and I saw it the other day.
Right.
I can't remember who it was.
So Andy said it's just north of Vienna. So
okay.
Or Vienna, however you say it.
Yeah, I know, man. Sometimes it'd be nice to throw shiners. I accused Hammy of doing that the other day on Cedar.
I'm pretty sure that's what his secret is.
Shiner. Yeah, he tips that jig with a big old 5-inch shiner.
Mm-hmm.
He's buying the large minnows.
The big bait shop. The ruby reds.
Yeah, the ruby reds.
We're getting late if we're talking about ruby reds and shiner fish.
Oh, here we go. Check this out. I actually wrote this down, Aaron. In your opinion, do any of the DQs come out of the Cuyahoga disaster? Have you followed any of that?
Mm-mm.
So the BPT, it was a lot of sight fishing going on at Cuyahoga.
Okay.
And when you catch a sight fish, you're supposed to show the fish to your boat official to verify that it was caught in the mouth.
Yep.
I didn't watch. I watched a little bit of that tournament, and I just kind of got wind of it the last couple of days. I was actually watching an episode of Let's Talk Fish with Thrift and Matt Airy, and
Thrift is on the BPT and Matt Airy's on the Elite Series.
Yeah, and they were talking about that. That was like their discussion, and they didn't get too much into that. They were talking about some other stuff that was related to that, but they did say that Thrift did say that there was an investigation underway that pertained to a couple anglers who didn't verify fish that were caught by them. So there might have been some fish that were caught outside of the mouth. So they're
you would think that would happen right away though, right? Like you have a boat official, he's got to check because he's got to weigh it.
He's supposed to. But sometimes they do the thing where they take it off, and they come around, especially if they see something. I mean, was it Jeff Sprague that was kind of notorious? I mean,
yeah.
I remember in Seth Fighter, it was one of the funniest things I ever see on live was where he snagged a fish in the side and he said he spragued him.
Yeah,
spragued the fish, and he said it a couple times. That Zona was just dying laughing. But so that kind of stuff happens. I mean, you got a 5-pound smallmouth and he's hooked just barely outside the mouth. That's 5 pounds that you're going to lose.
Especially now when it's not every fish counts, right? Like before,
right?
And Panger talked about this the other day on BTL that 8 that got caught in the BPT, that was like the turning point for him to get rid of every fish counts, because that 8-pounder meant
Oh, that smallmouth.
Yeah, the 8-pound smallmouth
Right.
meant nothing to the bag.
Who was that? The Cody Eber? Who
Yeah,
caught
I think
that?
it was eBay that caught that. That's that should have had a lot more publicity than it had. It just got it was just an 8-pound smallmouth. Just an 8-pound smallmouth. Hell, that was a giant fish.
Yeah, 4 2-pounders takes the place of that 8-pound
Absolutely.
smallmouth.
Absolutely.
And that's not the way that fish was like not honored. But
I agree, Tom. Catching the same fish over and over and over again. Those smallmouth are so damn aggressive.
okay, so that's the other thing that it's awesome that you guys brought this up. I know we're right here at the end, but this is cool because I literally wrote this down, and that's another thing that they were talking about. So there's a rule: if you can catch a bedding fish, a sight fish that you're actually looking at once a day.
Is that a rule?
It's a rule.
In BPT?
Once a day, yes. You can
Okay.
catch that fish. You can waypoint it. You can come back the next day and you can catch it again. Throw it back, waypoint it, and come back the next day. You cannot sight fish, that fish more than once.
Can you confirm it was that fish though?
It doesn't matter. If you can visually see that fish that's on that bed, it's slightly gray even in that rule.
Mhm.
But if you can visually see that fish and cast to it, you cannot catch it twice. But here's the really great part. If you catch that fish, you're sight fishing, you catch that fish, catch, weigh, release, 5-pounder, whatever, you go down the bank, you spin back around and you get out 30 yards off of your waypoint.
And
that
you cast
waypoint
at
was
it.
the bed, and you cast at it. You can catch that fish as many times as you catch it, as long as you're not seeing
sight
it.
fishing it.
If you get hung up and you go in to get your bait released and you make contact and you see that fish, you can't catch that fish.
That's such a gray area though.
So there a lot of those fish were caught multiple times, even though they were blind. Well, they weren't blind casting; they weren't looking at them. So that's kind of Thrift was talking about. That rule needs to be changed.
Well, so the same thing I heard that like a guy would have like a 512. I know where a 512's at. Like he knows where a 512's at. And he can go back and catch another 5 like
the next day.
So essentially, if you had 28 pounds and 5 of those fish were on beds, the odds are low, but you could go boom, 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 boom. And I caught the exact same weight, maybe an ounce or two heavier because he puked up a shiner or ate a bait fish before you got, or a goby before you got there.
Yeah.
But like that's not, I don't think that's right.
No. It's the weird catch, rain, release. So if you're catching those fish and you're putting them in the live well and you're taking them back up, you're not catching them again the next day.
No.
They're not there.
No.
So that's one of the big differences in a traditional 5 fish, take it back to the weigh-in versus catch, weigh, and release.
I mean, so how many times does this happen in a largemouth tournament in the South? But we don't have 12, 14, 18 foot visibility, right? You've been up to Mille Lacs. You've witnessed seeing them on a bed.
Sure.
Like in 12 foot of water.
They don't, when they're locked in, they don't move. Yeah.
It's just the same cast over and over again. You can just continue to catch that fish because they're just so aggressive.
And we had some, when we had Matt Steffen on here, remember him talking about that? You can literally catch, they had I think there was 3, I'm probably getting this story wrong, but here's the gist of it. It was Matt and a couple of his buddies were fishing a tournament, and they did a rotation of these same bedfish for the whole tournament and just kept catching them. You can literally kill the fish by catching them so many times. They're just, smallmouth are notorious for defending their beds at all costs.
Yeah. So that's, Stephanie, that's the gray area. Like, how do you know? That's what I was saying. Even if you're made contact and you know that that's a sight fish, what's to say as an angler, you say, nope. There was 2 beds sitting right there. One was on the left side of that rock and one was on the right. That Marshall's not like over your shoulder being like, nope. He's on the left side next to the
because there's
3-inch
multiple
boulder.
A lot of times there are multiple. It's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 fish using the same bed.
Right.
I mean, it's a hard.
Well, Daniel, that's a hard area too. Like, what defines an area? You know, is it 10 feet? And then the Marshall has a waypoint system where if we're inside that 10 feet, you can't catch one.
I don't think there's a. I don't know.
There's no way
it's going to be if you're throwing that fish back.
There's the way to do it. Teach the marshals how to tag fish.
Something.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do? Like take a Sharpie and
you
put a little black mark on its tail.
You put a barcode on it, and he's got a barcode scanner. So you pull that fish up like, bloop,
I don't think the DNR.
Nope, you
I
caught that one earlier.
don't think the DNR is going to let you barcode their fish. That's like federal property.
Right. I mean, but
Yeah.
where does it come to?
It's not the self checkout line at Walmart or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. But there's been talk about it, and there's some stuff being reviewed as far as the catching them in the mouth.
Exactly, Luke. I agree 110% here. Isn't the big deal catch weight releases to conserve? But it's also, and you know, I can't say that I wouldn't be guilty of it if I'm fishing for $100,000. Like that's my livelihood. That's my paycheck. If I can, you know, you can get away with it. I mean, yeah, it sucks, but that's how you put food on your table. That's how you feed your kids. That's how you feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
That comes a lot different.
Well, until there's a rule written. And
exactly. And like until there's something hard, you know, whoever is fishing is going to make that run to catch that 512.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going to make another run to catch the 4.9.
Yeah. And somebody, I can't remember who it was saying this. I think the story goes like there was somebody sitting, you know, somebody in a vacation home or whatever, and he was just watching the pros fish this little cove, and there was a fish on a bed. And say, I don't know who the angler is. I'll just make up a name. Say John Cox comes through at 9 o'clock and catches that fish. And maybe if it was a 5 fish limit and they're boxing them, maybe it didn't help his bag, or maybe it was catch and release. I don't know. But the bottom line is he saw one angler come through at 9, catch that fish off a bed, and then another angler come through at 11, catch that fish off the bed. Somebody else comes through at 1, catch that fish off the bed. Kind of what Luke was saying. Those fish will swim back. Largemouth will do it too. Smallmouth are more notorious for it. They'll swim right back to their bed and they'll just continue to protect their bed. But this guy sat and watched 3 or 4 or 5 pros, I can't remember how many, just come through and catch that same exact fish continuously through that day.
Right.
And that's just part of it.
Well, and if you have a good network of guys in the BPT, you know, you got 2 or 3 guys you're staying with, and maybe you're at the bottom of the standings and you have the same little milk run, and you know that there's 5, 6, 8 fish in a 1 mile area that are all on a bed. You just you blue dot them to death, right?
Yeah. Like Aaron was saying, you know, they're pretty easy to catch. We haven't done a whole lot of bed fishing. We're catching a lot of spawning fish, but we're just casting to them. And yeah, you're right, Luke. It should be an honor system. It should be more, you know, like integrity. You know that fish. These guys are out there practicing. They know which fish are which fish, and they know if they've caught that fish before. They know how it's set up on the bed. There's some fish have little markings. I mean, you can catch a fish and tell if it's been hooked by inside the mouth. There's puncture wounds. They know 9 times out of 10 that they're catching that fish. So it's up to them and their integrity to do the right thing or to follow the rules. It's hard to prove as a judge, as a marshal. It's hard to prove that, but the angler pretty much knows what he's doing. And unfortunately, like you said, when there's $100,000 on the line, the rules are going to be bent a little bit, especially if it's a 5-pound fish that can really make a difference.
Well, so Luke, like I completely agree with you. I'm a huge advocate of not tournament fishing between the holidays and the South. Like I wish that the lakes that we fish around here wouldn't even have tournaments between those 2 dates, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. But say I'm leading the tournament after day 2 and I haven't cut a check all season. Like, where does that come into play at? Like you got all these things that start
credit
turning.
card bills, a house payment.
Yeah. I got $30,000 for a credit card bill. I got a truck, a boat, and a mortgage, and my wife's staying at home with my 3 kids. Like, because I'm out here chasing my dream.
Right.
Well, my dream is to make a living doing this, not to, I hate to say it, but conserve. Like, right? I mean, if it's within the rules and if it's capable of doing, I got to make
Well, that's why you have to have a hard rule.
Yeah.
Because if there's gray area, look at Keith Poche, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's jumping levees because there's a gray area there.
Yep.
That's part of being a competitor, that competitive nature. If there is a little wiggle room in there, you're going to test it, and that's just the way it is. And so it needs to be it needs to be a hard line one way or the other. And I'm not really sure how that's going to happen, but they are discussing it. You know, that catching it in the mouth versus not in the mouth, that's cut and dry. There's no argument about that. The hook's either in the mouth or it's not in the mouth.
What's fun, Aaron? What's fun to watch? I mean, that's honestly, they're creating a product for. I love fall and winter tournaments, but they're creating a product for folks to watch. The biggest complaint about the Sabine, the tournament that we just talked about, was they didn't catch a big enough fish. There's the argument about
the live scope
tournaments.
Boring watching people.
So there's going to be complaining on whatever we do. I hate spawn tournaments because all you're doing is the whole Elite Series just chases the spawn. But it also is a heck of a lot more fun to watch them flip up, whether they're flipping on a bed or not, flip up and catch a 6-pounder and swing it in the carpet. Like that gets me jacked up. I'm with you. I don't like watching a guy standing over live scope and with his head down the whole time, especially when I can't see what he's looking at.
Well, if Bassmasters, if Humminbird wasn't the electronic sponsorship of Bassmasters, and they could figure out how to have a separate feed on a Garmin,
like they did with
or
Gussie in the Classic.
Yeah, but he had Humminbird.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not really seeing
I think you're going to see
all
that
due respect.
coming,
I mean, Hummingbird's like side scan and down scan is top notch, and their mapping's phenomenal. But they got a ways to go on their forward facing sonar.
Absolutely.
But if it was hooked up to like the Gen 3 Lowrance or the Gen 3 live scope, you know, the LVS 34 Plus, it'd be pretty cool.
And you got him sitting here making his cast.
It'd be cooler.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's coming though. I think that's the next.
It's gonna
that's
have
the
to.
evolution, right?
It's gonna have to. I mean, that's the best thing that could happen for that, pushing that technology forward.
Craig, you're absolutely right. Like, what can make you sleep at night? Integrity. Like, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you guys on this at all, but most of us have never been faced with that. Whether it's I'm going to make it home tonight.
There are certain people that will do that.
There's certain people right here. Even if it's a hard rule, somebody will find a way around it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if I don't have a pillow to put my head on tonight to sleep, then
Yeah, and that's not. I would say
when you've been
there's 100 fishermen, I would say 98 of them are going to do the right thing.
Absolutely.
Regardless. But there's a couple people that will bend it and they'll test it.
Yep.
And that's a good thing about one of the good things about GoPros on boats and live feeds and stuff. Marshals. When somebody does something that they're not supposed to do, most of these guys, when they do something they're not supposed to, they call the tournament director. I had 6 fish in a live well and I started fishing. I forgot to call that one out.
Yep.
They'll immediately make a phone call. They probably could have got away with it.
Yep.
I mean, they probably could have. This is sometimes when there's not even a marshal.
I'll say this. Sometimes there's not a marshal.
Yeah.
And
it's the right thing to do.
How easy is it to turn off your GoPro?
Yeah. Delete that.
Yeah.
They get hot. Trust me, I know. GoPros suck right now. Like in the heat, it's like my chest cam shuts off. It is so frustrating.
Have you tried taking the battery out?
Yeah, I haven't had the battery in it. It's just the
8.
The 8 is horrible. The 7, I could put the 7. My 5s are like workhorses. They go through whatever. It doesn't matter. My 7, it's really, really good back on the pole, but the 8 is horrible. And that's what I have on chassis. So I got to get that figured out. The 11, they came out with new battery technology.
Have you tried the
it's
DJI?
Really good. No. Is it good in the heat?
I think so.
I'm not against switching because
I'll let you borrow mine.
Yeah, because you make a $399 camera. It's using so much processing power that it gets hot. I got a couple things I'm going to try to do to it, but yeah, bottom line is they need to be cut and dry on these rules, and I'm curious to see what happens. I'm curious to see who was catching fish outside the mouth and weighing them, because it's out there. There's enough different angles that they're probably going to catch these guys, and they'll be a fine. I mean, hopefully it's something different from what Boyd Duckett find himself, for being out on the lake when he wasn't supposed to be out on the lake, and he got a 10-minute penalty, which he heard about that.
Yeah, he was crappie fishing. Because that was the rules
on an off-limits lake.
That was the rules in the previous year of the tournament trail that he owns.
He just kind of slipped his.
Yeah, Tom, you're right. I mean, winter tournaments do not draw crowds. And let's be honest, what is there again? I'll go back to they're creating
Kids are out of school in summer.
they're creating a product, right?
Mhm.
And we want to watch them giant fish. I like watching a grinder, but I can't get super involved with the grinder.
And you got weather to deal with in the wintertime.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of these places.
Even those early classics. Remember 5,
In
6, 10
Texas.
years ago?
Yeah.
Early classics, boats frozen to the trailers.
Yeah,
like
they get a freak ice storm. Even Oklahoma and Texas. I know Florida. You can do Florida pretty much. You're not going to get.
well, hell, next year the classics at Grand. There's a good chance that it's going to be
it could
freaking
be.
cold.
Yeah, could be.
So
Yeah, I'd love to see winter tournaments, and especially
Mhm.
more fall tournaments. I mean, most like tournament circuits have their classics in the fall, like the BFLs and stuff. The Anglers in Action. It's all like October, November, so definitely fall tournaments. I love the fall tournaments and the winter tournaments. I think in PFL they do it kind of cool where they have one tournament a month, and it's spread out all the way into the fall. That's kind of a cool concept,
Mhm.
but it's also good for traveling when you have all these tournaments kind of in a certain quarter, like
especially
like
for a guy like Matty Wong
right,
coming from the West Coast.
like you got a bunch of tournaments that are within 8 hours in the South, kind of piggybacked. It helps cut down on travel expenses. So they kind of got their little system worked out. When you go up north, you're typically fishing 3 tournaments up north. You're kind of staying in that area, so you're not going back
And they're
and forth,
usually-
back and forth, back and forth.
They piggyback off of each other up north too.
Yeah, it's like a 3-week run or something.
Yep.
But yeah, I definitely.
And you got a lot of deer hunters, waterfowl hunters. That's the off season, the winter time, the fall and the winter. I mean, that's not the only reason, but there's lots of factors. So
Yeah, I finally got that little ducket reel that I won at that BFL. I got it on the rod, and it's actually so far it's been a decent reel. It's better than a Corrado, right? You know what that guy tried to say?
oh god, that was rough.
He got that last
That was
10 minute at the boat show.
That was a Sunday sale right there with 10 minutes left of the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, that guy was trying to work you over, man.
He was trying to pawn a ducket paradigm that's so much better than a
Corrado.
K.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, every once in a while we have a freeze in like December, and we're in the middle of the country, so
Yeah, and it's also snowed on Easter. It's rare,
not too long ago.
but it's mid-April. We get kind of anywhere from mid-November to
so
mid-April. we get
usually
snow.
like January, February, we get anywhere between end of December and end of January, we get a false spring,
Mhm.
and it's going to be like 75 and sunny for a week, and we're all going to get jacked up.
Have you heard that song, 75 and Sunny by Ryan Montsbleu?
Mm-mm.
I'll send it to you. It's a
Okay.
great song. It's actually called 75 and Sunny.
Yeah, we had that last year when we went down to Bull. Spent a couple days down that Bull Shoals. Toured the factory and got to fish with our guests last week.
Del Colvin.
Yeah, so
Yeah, you get our winters around here are not bad. I mean, Luke, you got it. You got a lot worse up there for sure. And even our snows are not. We get a lot of 2-inch snows, and they're gone in like
I think
3
Luke's
days.
in Illinois.
Luke's in Illinois. Aaron, I'm sorry, Aaron.
Yeah.
My bad.
Aaron's he's
in New York.
He's got the jealousy from us for catching smallmouth.
Yeah.
So.
So it's not we get we have to deal with ice sometimes, and it'll be slushy for a while, but it's not like we're getting 2 and 3 and 4 foot of snow like some of these northeastern states do, or Colorado's, or the western state, the Rocky Mountain states.
I'm not disagreeing with the Daiwa. I have a couple Daiwas as well. They're great reels, but what I told this old boy was that how long has the Corrado K been out? I just left it at that. Like, you don't fix something that's not broke. So same way with the Daiwa. There's been the same Daiwa's been over and over over again. And
those are one of the greatest reels.
It's a workhorse, right? Like, we talk about workhorses. There's some of those old Lew's reels that are just absolute workhorses. They don't make them like they used to, though. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
That's why Steve Kennedy's still fishing with old green Corrados from back in the day. So.
Yep. All right. We've rambled on. Thanks for hanging out and listening to us. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for sticking around. The 18 people that are still on here.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a nice little private chat. We got into kind of like a little deep dive on
Yeah,
some specific
we
topic.
went sideways with
man.
ice cream earlier, and then we went sideways with smallmouth fishing.
Possible cheating and some
Yeah.
world changes coming down the pike, and that was fun. Several new faces on here right now: Luke and Aaron, Craig. We do this every Monday, so we'd love to have you back on here next Monday if you're not doing anything. And a couple videos coming out this week. Hopefully Wednesday and Friday I'll have some videos coming out. I got some good stuff. I had a couple good days recently. In between all this house moving stuff, so I'm gonna try to get those out if I can edit. I promise I'll have one video for sure. Try to get two, and we will see you next Monday. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope you get out this weekend and catch a few
Stay cool
fish.
if you do. It's
Stay
getting
cool.
warm.
Yeah, it's getting humid. So till next time. See